Yes, case number 503 on the calendar in the matter of Medrano versus Moreland.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Medrano, defendant was your boyfriend, and you claim that you made a $1,200 loan in order to help him break a lease for his apartment. Mr. Moreland has an entirely different story, which I'm going to let him tell me.
Right.
Because you do acknowledge that she gave you $1,200.
Correct.
When did she give you the $1,200?
It's around February of 2008, during my birthday. I was going to depart the city. I told her I was going to leave.
You were going to leave what city?
Indianapolis, and I was going back to New York. And
Are you originally from New York?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long were you and Miss Medrano dating at the time?
For about a year. And that's when she had persuaded me that I should stay, get an apartment. I got an apartment because I had a friend that also, too, needed an apartment. So we got the apartment together.
Where was Miss Medrano living?
She was staying with her mother at the time.
Go ahead.
And during that time, I had a friend. He moved in with me. He was unable to financially make the rent. So
just a minute. So you rented an apartment with a friend?
Right.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the friend sign the lease?
No, ma'am.
And how much was the rent?
$500 a month.
So you each were paying $250?
Right.
And then he couldn't make the rent?
Right, he couldn't make the rent.
So what happened, Mr. Moreland?
At that time, he left the apartment, and I told her that I was...
When was this?
This was around April of 2008, last year. And I had made her aware, notified her that I was going to leave the city right then and there because I didn't have an apartment to go to, and I just wanted to leave.
Well, you had an apartment to go to. You had signed a lease.
Right.
So you were just going to break the lease and leave?
Yeah, I was going to break the lease and leave.
And what did she say?
She said, no, don't do that. Stay. I'll give you the money. So then she gave me $1,200.
What was the $1,200 for?
It was for the rent because I wasn't able to pay his half. And then also, too, there were some other things.
That's not correct.
Shh. I'll get to you in a minute.
And then also, too, I had a car payment that I had to make.
Okay. Now, in April of 2006, did Miss Medrano come to stay with you?
No, she did not. She was already staying there. And she already had her belongings already there.
Already
during
where?
the time, at the apartment.
How often did she stay there?
I say about 5 nights out of 7 nights during the week. The weekend she would leave and go back over to her mother's or do with her.
Why is that?
I don't know why I don't know if she was going to the club or what she was doing.
What club?
Clubs around the city or wherever.
What were you doing on the weekends?
I was doing the same thing. I was
Cheating.
go to the...
Shh. All right, Miss Medrano, let's hear your version of the $1,200.
In April, he asked me to borrow the money, and I told him no at first, but then eventually I did let him borrow it. And that was not to pay any of his bills. That was actually to break the lease of his apartment and move into another one in Indianapolis.
Did he, in fact, do that?
No, he did not. I'm really not sure where the money went to.
I want you to tell me exactly what he said to you.
He asked me to borrow the money in order to break the lease to his apartment and move into another apartment in Indianapolis. But I really strongly believe that he was behind on child support and that it went to his baby's mother.
Were you behind in child support?
No, ma'am.
How much did you pay in child support?
It was just $50 a week, so I wasn't... no reason to be behind him.
And actually, I have another statement. His baby mother called me, so that's why I really strongly believe that, because she did let me know that he was behind on...
Don't tell me what she said. That's hearsay. Okay. When did the two of you break up?
In May of 2008.
Under what circumstances?
Because he was cheating on me with his baby's mother.
That's incorrect. I I was just being honest with her. I made her aware that I wasn't going to be able to be faithful to her. I wasn't with any ex-girlfriend or anything else like that. I just let her know I wasn't going to be able to be faithful, so we might as well not be in a relationship. And that's when she had got upset.
It's not true.
And agitated about the situation.
Okay, so let me understand this. You broke up a month later.
Right, correct.
Or within that month.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, you were taking $1,200 from her.
Yes, ma'am.
To pay a variety of bills, none of which were hers.
Correct.
And shortly after you got the $1,200 from her, you told her that you could not be faithful to her in a committed relationship.
Correct.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's
Parties are excused.
Counterclaims dismissed.
You may step out.
Pretty much just a woman scorn, and this is just really how women get sometimes.
He had been lying to her also.
Honesty doesn't pay off at the end of the day.
Learn how to be faithful.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Massa versus Nowak. Step forward, please.
Sammy Massa is suing his ex-boyfriend, Daryl Nowak, for unpaid loans to pay his rent and car note. He is also suing for the return of his record collection.
Mr. Massa, you and the defendant lived together for approximately 8 years, according to your complaint. You lived together as a couple, And you claim that during that period of time, you paid as a loan to the defendant his share of living expenses, rent and car payments when he lost his job. You want that money back. In addition, you say that when he left, he took a valuable and sentimental CD collection, and you want that back. The defendant says that he has the CD collection, that he's keeping it, holding it hostage until you return to him some of the things. I assume that some of the things, they were things that you gave to him as gifts that you refused to return to him. And he says that as far as the rent and car payments were concerned, there was never any discussion when you were together about that money being paid back. Are these the items that you want, sir, that are your gifts?
I believe they are, yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Can we turn those, first let me see them, and then we'll turn them over to the defendant and take care of his counterclaim. Mr. Massa, you bought these for the defendant as gifts?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. There's a bracelet with your name on it. It looks like a watch. What else?
I have 2 antique estate chairs that I would also like returned to me.
2 antique estate chairs, sir. Do you
Yes,
have
Your Honor.
those?
Yes, Your Honor.
Could we make arrangements to get those to the defendant?
Sure, as soon as I receive...
No.
Okay.
They're his things. You can't hold
Okay.
things hostage. We don't hold things hostage. Okay. So these 2 things we turn over to the defendant. Thank you, Bert. And then we'll make arrangements within 5 days to get your 2 chairs.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, you get your 2 chairs when he gets back his record collection. Do you understand? So we're
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
we're going to make that a transfer, so we know that the chairs come to you in good condition and the record collection goes to the plaintiff in good condition, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Sammy Massa says his former live-in boyfriend, Daryl Noack, owes for rent, car payments, and the return of his record collection.
Now let's talk about this money.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Massa. I'm prepared to hear you.
Daryl Noack lost his job at the end of February and came to me in March and asked me if I would loan him money to pay his vehicle while he awaited a 401k payout and his vacation pay from his prior employee.
And how much was the vehicle payment?
The first payment was an amount of $300, and so I went and paid that, and then...
Had you ever paid for the car before?
No, Your Honor.
Is that correct, that he had never paid for it before?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so $300. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. And then back in April of 08...
April of 08, yes.
Yes.
What did he need in April of 08?
I paid another car payment of his for $325.
Okay.
And then somehow on the 5th month, he was able to call...
I got a deferment for the car payment for that month, Your Honor.
Fine.
Okay, so...
Due to the fact that I had lost my position.
Okay, good.
And then on 6/3, I loaned him $335.
For a car
payment again.
Is that correct, Mr. Noack?
I believe it was correct, Your Honor. There was an incidental amount for, I think they had placed insurance or something.
Okay, go.
And then in July, $225.
Also for the car?
For the car payment as well. And then...
I was making arrangements at that time due to the loss of my employment. They gave me a reduced amount.
Got it. I got it. So far, this is what you owe him.
Yes.
Okay, and then on August of 8, he asked for another $325, Your Honor, which I paid for another car payment.
Go ahead.
Okay, I also paid a share of rent. The total amount of rent was $600. We was living with my mother. She paid $300, and the agreement was that we would pay $150 each. He did pay in March his $150, but from there on out, from April through September of 08, he did not pay any of his rent. I paid that, which totals the amount of $900, which he owes me.
Do you agree you owe him that money, Mr. Noack?
I don't know if that amount is correct, Your Honor.
That is correct. 150 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equals $900.
I didn't realize I was supposed to maintain an expense sheet in a relationship.
Well, the
Well, what I'm
relationship was
asking you
over
is,
there
Mr.
at the
Noack,
time,
did you ask
there
him
was
to
no
pay...
relationship anymore. Excuse me.
Did you ask him to pay your share of the rent?
He paid the share of the rent. I didn't ask him to pay it.
Well, how else was you supposed to do it?
No, Mr. Massa. Don't interfere. Okay. So far, he acknowledges he owes you the car payments, correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now we come to an issue. The issue is whether or not there was a loan with regard to the rent.
I never agreed to repay anything.
He's
Did
lying.
you... Just a minute. Did you ask him to pay your share of the rent?
Yes, he did.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
I'm not asking you anything.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Did you ask him to pay
No,
your
ma'am, I
share
did
of the
not.
rent? All right, Mr. Massa, I'd like you to tell me how it came about that you paid the entire $300.
The lease was in my mother's name. Each month, I would give my mother $300 cash, and she would put in the other $300.
Oh, I understand that.
Right, and he asked me if I would pay his share of rent because I wasn't going to pay his expenses to have him to live.
Why not? You were living.
Yeah,
Why
well,
not?
we never did that before. Everything was.
I understand, but he had no job now.
Well, that's not my responsibility.
Mr. Massa, let me explain something to you, sir. There has to be an agreement to repay
He
in
did
order
agree
to have.
to it.
There has to be an agreement to repay in order for there to be a loan. You paid his share of the rent because you were a couple, you were living together, and he didn't have
And I
a
had
job.
lost my job.
Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, but we wasn't a couple anymore. I moved back to the back bedroom after an incident that
I didn't
happened.
keep track of every time I bought you dinner and.
Well, that has
no,
nothing
don't
to
talk.
do with.
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. When did you move back to?
I moved back in. Okay.
I ask a question, you answer. When did you move to the back bedroom? And what
I moved
month?
back there the day after my birthday in February of 2008.
Is that correct?
Or shortly thereafter.
Well, then, from April until September of 2008, you weren't a couple. You owe him the rent, sir. What else?
Okay, he also borrowed 258 some odd cents for
think it was
insurance payment.
$228.
It was 258, Your Honor.
When?
August the 21st, when the car company called him and said that they would no longer carry his insurance premium anymore. He had to get insurance himself.
And you were no longer a couple then?
We was no longer a couple, but he asked me, so I went down. I put 258 some odd cents. I think it was 37 cents.
You drove the car. It was important there was insurance on it.
Mr. Nowak, listen. You want to speak to him? Go outside and speak to him.
I assumed it was an expense, that both of us incurred. I made the car payments prior to being unemployed. I didn't ask him for it. He drove the car during that time frame also. It's what you do in a relationship.
You weren't in a relationship anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if you were in a relationship, my reaction would be totally different. But from what both of you indicate,
We were
there
living
came
in
a
the
time-
same home.
You were living in the same home, but you were no longer living under the same bedroom roof. And there was a specific break in the relationship because he says he moved out of the room that you had shared into a back bedroom. And he did that in February of 2008, and all of these bills accrued subsequent to that. Okay. You owe him $2,668. That's all. The exchange of property will be made within 5 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't realize you had to maintain an expense sheet when you're in a relationship.
You have to pay for yourself in life. I'm not going to pay for somebody else.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Bertello, step forward, please.
25-year-old Ashley Williams is suing her ex-roommate, 23-year-old Joseph Joey Bertello, for unpaid rent on their shared apartment.
Ms. Williams, you and the defendant were friends and leased an apartment together. He moved out to go into rehab. Had a drug problem or a drinking problem?
Pain prescription pills.
You could not maintain the apartment by yourself. You broke the lease. And now the landlord is pursuing you for 7 months' rent. You want the defendant to pay half of that.
Correct.
When did you sign the lease?
We signed the lease in June of 2007.
When did you move out, sir?
It was November 2007.
When did you move out?
November 2007.
You moved out to go into rehab.
Yes.
Why did you move out?
I moved out because I couldn't afford to live there anymore.
How much was the rent?
$1,190.
Do you have any notification from the landlord that they are pursuing you for this money?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? Okay, sir. I'm prepared to hear your defense.
Okay. Starting from the beginning?
Well, you don't have to start back from your birth. You moved into the apartment June of 07. You moved out November of 07.
Correct.
The landlord wants, between the two of you, $7,840.
Correct.
Why should you not be responsible for half of that?
Well, when I moved out, I had developed a problem. I had been in several car accidents prior to that, and I was prescribed medications, and it just got to be out of control. And I kind of sat her down and said, look, I need to go get help. I'm going to move back in with my parents for now and check myself into a rehab. And when I told her that, she agreed that it was more important than living together and, the rent. And so we had an agreement that I was going to move out and she was going to ask her sister to move in with her and take my place.
You had an agreement that you would try to find somebody else.
Yeah, her sister. She had mentioned that her sister liked our place and maybe possibly thought about moving in. And when
that's a possibility. Did that happen?
No, it didn't.
Didn't happen.
No. And so a few days later, she had left to go to LA to visit her boyfriend at the time. My mom came and stayed with me at the apartment, and then after that, I got all my things and left. When I came back and she was there, that's when she told me, look, I can't find anybody. I'm going to move out now. And so I told her, I said, I thought we were in agreement that you were going to have your sister move in.
No, there was no agreement, sir. You just said to me there was a possibility that maybe her sister would move in. But before you got all your things together and moved out, she told you that her sister wasn't moving in.
No, that actually happened afterwards. When I got my stuff and I came back for the last of my things.
Your stuff was still there. If the last of your things were still there, sir, you were still there. She told you she couldn't get her sister to move in. You had a choice. You could have stayed in the apartment.
Yeah, I mean, but I did tell her.
When you left in November, where did you immediately go?
The first place I went was my mother's.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there for about a month, and then that's when I checked into rehab.
Did you finish rehab?
Yes.
You're okay now?
Yeah.
Great. You owe her half this money. I'm glad you went into rehab. I'm glad everything is great. I'm glad you recognized it. All of that is terrific. You can't leave somebody in the lurch because you had a problem.
I actually have proof that he's lying, if you would like that. He signed something when we moved out saying that he would be rent responsible as well as me until the apartment was rented.
I thought that was I was signing away saying that I don't have any more responsibilities to this apartment. I thought the agreement was saying that.
It specifically says
whether
you
he
do.
did or whether he didn't. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $39.20. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, it's case number 494 on the calendar in the matter of Price versus Alvarez.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. You folks have a seat.
All right, each one of you has allegations against the other, multiple ones, so I'm going to try to simplify this as best I can. Mr. Price, you rented an apartment to Miss Alvarez.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Ultimately had her evicted, according to her, had her evicted. It is your claim that she owes you money.
Yes.
She owes you money for rent because she gave you a rent check that she ultimately stopped payment on.
Correct.
That she owes you for damage done to the apartment, which was additional damage that her security deposit did not cover.
Correct.
And attorney's fees that you spent to get a 30-day notice to quit the premises. Correct. Ms. Alvarez has a counterclaim. She says that you wrongfully evicted her, that she only stayed for a few days the beginning of November, which is why she didn't pay November's rent. And she's counterclaiming, in addition, for the return of her security deposit and for the illegal eviction. So, when did she move in?
Your Honor, Anna Alvarez moved in on 6/3/07.
Did she sign a lease?
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it.
Copy of her lease. It was a one-year lease, Your Honor.
All right, so this lease was for Anna, Vanessa, and Alex Alvarez.
Yes.
Who is that? That's your husband?
No, that my daughter Vanessa and my daughter Alex.
Okay, Anna, Vanessa, and Alex Alvarez.
That's all.
Just the three of you?
Yes.
$1,400 a month rent and $1,000 security deposit. The term of the lease was 1 year. Fine. When did you serve Miss Alvarez with a notice to quit the premises?
I served Mrs. Alvarez. That would be 9/25/07.
That was just a few months into the lease.
4 months into the lease, I was receiving complaints from both neighbors on each side.
That's hearsay, sir. Did you go to housing court to have her evicted?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
What is the procedure in this jurisdiction? You serve her a 30-day notice to leave the premises.
It wasn't a 30-day, it was a 3-day notice, Your Honor.
3-day?
3-day.
When?
The date that Max said, I don't remember right now.
When did you serve her with a 3-day?
On the 25th.
Of what?
Of September. My lawyer served her a performer quit notice is what it was. She had a choice.
Can I see that?
Yes, Your Honor, you may.
I'd like to see it.
That was a performer quit notice.
For being wrongfully accused, Your Honor.
So you understood, Miss Alvarez, that if you didn't leave the premises, he was going to start eviction proceedings against you.
Yes.
You understood that?
I did understand.
Fine. So that you didn't have her evicted, but you notified her September 25th that if she didn't leave within 3 days, you would, in all probability, initiate eviction proceedings against her, which you never did.
Correct, because she decided to perform.
Just a second, but you never did.
Never did, Your Honor.
Okay, when you received this, Miss Alvarez, what did you do?
I panicked and I went to the police department and showed the police department and told the police department they're wrongfully accusing my 2 daughters.
Just a second. What did you do? You have the following options. You can either choose to leave, or you can say, bring on eviction proceedings, we'll go to court, and we'll appear before the judge. You present your case, I'll present my case, and then the judge will determine whether or not I'm to be evicted. You understood that, Miss Alvarez?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Okay. At some point, you chose to leave. At some point, you chose to leave rather than having him start formal eviction proceedings.
I didn't leave till November 3, 2008. I stood there and paid my rent month to month and did all that.
But you chose to leave rather than to have eviction proceedings start. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor, that's not correct.
Well, it was correct, Miss Alvarez, because you have the two choices. Either you say, listen, you don't have a case against me. We didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And therefore, if you want to evict me, go to court.
Okay, yes.
And have me evicted.
That's correct, Your Honor, yes.
This just says to you, if you don't leave on your own, I may start eviction proceedings and you will be responsible for the costs of the eviction proceedings, my attorney's fees.
When I spoke to Max about that paperwork, he told me, rip it up. I jumped the gun. It was my mistake. The neighbor wrongly accused your 2 daughters. It wasn't them. Don't worry about it, Anna. Just throw it in the trash. Don't worry about it. So I said, phew. Okay, I'm relieved.
Did you have that conversation with her?
I did not, Your Honor.
Yes, he did, Your Honor.
Then why did you move?
I didn't move November of 25th, 2007.
When did you move?
November 3rd, 2008.
Oh, you left November 2008.
Of 8.
A year later?
Yes, because he told me to rip it up.
Shh. So now you ripped it up.
Right. And we went on living.
Let's say, and he didn't pursue the matter.
No, not at all.
Okay, now I
therefore
understand.
took my daughter
Just a second.
to his neighbor.
Just a second. You moved out November 3rd, 2008, and never signed another lease, correct? So that you were now living as a month-to-month tenant.
Yes.
Am I correct, Mr. Price?
Amendment to the lease.
Shh. You never signed another lease, correct? Ms. Alvarez?
No.
After this, you never signed another lease, so now you're living as a month-to-month tenant.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
And you chose to leave on November 3rd, 2008. Why?
I didn't want to leave, but Max was constantly, 5 days out of the week there. Just there. He would come by to water for 5 minutes. He would come by to just walk and stand and move trash cans from one spot to another spot. I had a patio furniture outside. He would fold up my chairs and put them away the way he liked them. I wear construction boots to work. I like to sit on my patio chairs when I get off of work.
You weren't happy to move.
No, he was just constantly there, like he lived there.
Okay.
Like he was there.
Fine. He was constantly there at his
5
place.
days out
Fine.
of the week.
You moved. You moved. Where did you move to?
I moved up the street. In the next city over.
Up the street, the next city over? How?
In Azusa. Where I used to rent from Max was Glendora. I moved into Azusa. I had to move right away.
So you went to a new town?
Yes, I did.
Did you move into a new apartment?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Why didn't you move out on October 31st?
October the 31st?
Yes, 2008.
Because I just didn't.
Well, you can't stay there in November without paying rent.
I did give him a rent check. I gave him a rent check. I stopped payment because he came into the house. Max came into my apartment. The reason why I left, Your Honors, Max came into the apartment 3 times without me knowing, with no notice, notice at all. The very first time when I first moved in, he came in to rearrange furniture.
I'm not interested in the very first time. You stayed there.
The second time he came in with my daughter there.
When?
I believe that was August 20th. My daughter panicked and called me at work.
August 20th of what year?
August 20th of 2008.
Okay, but you didn't leave until November of 2008.
I went to the police department. They told me what to do.
Don't tell me what the police told you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Max Price says former tenant Anna Alvarez owes for stopping payment on a rent check and for damages to her apartment. Anna is countersuing for 2 security deposits and lost wages.
My question is a simple one, Ms. Alvarez. Why didn't you move on October 31st, 2008? Then there wouldn't be an issue about November's rent. You owe him for November's rent. You were there in November.
I was there in November for 3 days, Your
I
Honor.
don't care whether you were there for an hour in November. My question to you is a simple one, Ms. Alvarez. You moved to a new town. Why didn't you move on October 31st? There's a simple answer for it.
I gave him a 30-day notice. I let him know that there was a check there from October the 15th to November 15th. That was when I was going to leave. He proceeded to come over,
October
come in.
15th to November 15th. Is that when you paid rent? From the 15th to the 15th?
Yes.
Is that right?
No. November. I paid rent from November 1st to November 15th. I gave him a $735 check.
Okay, so you paid him for the first half of the month.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And then you canceled that check.
Yes, I did, Your Honor. Because he came into my apartment again without me knowing.
When?
That was November the 3rd. November the 3rd, I got a message from him saying I went into your apartment again without me knowing. I was still there. We were still moving out.
What did he go into the apartment for?
Same reason why he went into the other apartment the other 2 times. I have no idea.
On August the 20th, I was working on the unit up in front. There's 2 units on one property. Working on the unit up in front, walked down the little parkway to get something from the back, and I noticed a stool outside of a bedroom window with that window broken with the window broken.
It wasn't broken. It was.
Don't. I gave you a chance. He didn't interrupt you.
The window was broken, and it looked like somebody had broken into the unit. I went around to the back as where I was heading. I knocked on the door, knocked on the door. Her daughter, Alex Alvarez, who's 16 years old, said, "Come in."
She did not say that.
I don't want you to speak.
I said, "Alex, are you okay?" I said, "There's a chair on the outside of the bedroom window, and there is a broken window in your mom's bedroom. Is everything okay?" She said, "Yes, everything is fine." I said, "I need to enter the property because I need to fix this broken window."
Do you have any receipt from the broken window?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have a tape recorder, Your Honor, that I want you to hear his message on my voicemail. I only have one. I have 23 of them of harassment, Your Honor.
Put it down.
Okay.
Not a difficult case, Miss Alvarez. What was the address of this house, Miss Alvarez?
739 in Glendora.
Well, why would he fix a window if it wasn't broken?
It wasn't broken. It was the place is old. I don't know how old it is, 1951 or 19 something, but it was stuck. It was closed. So when I went to open it for the first time, I have one window open and the other one closed. I tried to palm it up to make it go up, and it lightning bolt cracked, and that's what he's talking about. And for him to see that lightning bolt crack, Your Honor, he would have to be looking like he constantly.
Miss Alvarez, you owe him for November's rent. The half that you gave him when you stopped payment on the check. How much was that?
$735.
$735. So far, that's what you owe him, Miss Alvarez. Now, there's an issue with regard to security deposit, Mr. Price. Mm-hmm. She already gave you a $1,000 security deposit. I would like to see the condition of the apartment that she had before and after.
Okay. I have pictures here, Your Honor, along with receipts of before and after. There's before, the good ones are the before. I put $7,000, maybe $8,000 worth of before she moved in. The place was completely immaculate, brand new, and she will testify to that. She was very pleased and thankful that she was able to move into such a clean
So these
place.
are the after pictures or the before pictures?
Well, those are before and after, Your Honor.
Well, what you're talking about is scratches on the floor, sir?
Yes, severe scratches in which the tenant that has now living in the place has called me on it, and, well, they had to be fixed.
I had a twin bed in the bedroom.
They had to be fixed. Shh.
I had a twin bedroom in the girls' room, and yes, one of the wheels of the twin bed broke off, so that's what it did scratch it. I do know. I am aware of that. I do know that, Your Honor.
Well, then he has to have all these floors redone.
It's just a small scratch in the bedroom.
You can't just do one little piece, Miss Alvarez. You can't just do one little piece of a floor. You got to do the whole. You got to scrape down the floor, resand it, and then finish the whole floor. You can't just take a square and redo it. Would you show this to Miss Alvarez, please? I've seen the pictures of the floor.
What is this? This is the front. What is this? This is the front door? I don't know where the
It looks like a door to me.
This can't be the front door, because the front door didn't have it. I have my pictures also.
I'd like to see them.
I don't know what door. I don't know where that's from, Your Honor.
Okay.
My pictures aren't that good.
You took these pictures, Miss Alvarez, when you moved out?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
It doesn't look terrible. How much is it going to cost you to fix the floor, Mr. Price?
I have a receipt here, Your Honor. It cost me $980 to have them redone. That's the living room and 2 bedrooms.
What was wrong with the living room?
The living room pictures are also in there. It looks like the scratches to the living room, I could point them out to you, were maliciously done.
Well,
or it could have been from the dog that she should not have had inside of the house.
We don't have a dog,
I'm not
Your
sure
Honor.
where they came from.
We don't have a dog, Your Honor.
That's a picture of the living room right there.
Just the living room, because I saw the...
Yeah, these are bedrooms. That's the living room right there. And it's right in the center of the living room. And you are absolutely correct. I tried to ask my hardwood floor guy if we could just kind of patch this up, and he said absolutely not.
So this is the living room?
That is the living room, and the other ones are the bedrooms.
Okay, so it cost you $980 to take care of the floors. What else?
Well, you got the laundry room. You have pictures of the laundry room, damage to the walls. That had to be fixed. That was part of them.
The laundry room.
The place had to be repainted, and the walls had to be cleaned before they were painted.
That's what you're the landlord. You do that.
Typical wear and tear.
That's the
screens.
That you take care of.
Here are some the screens from the daughters sneaking in and out of the property at nighttime.
My daughters don't sneak in and out of the property at nighttime.
The screens were bent.
No, my daughters don't do that.
Mr. Price! Hey, shh. Mr. Price.
Yes, ma'am.
You've got your $1,000 security deposit?
I'm sorry?
You had her $1,000 security deposit? Good. That took care of the floors, and you totally have new floors.
Okay, yes, I do.
You're also entitled to $735. You are entitled to that. You are entitled to her rent.
Your Honor, I had to leave.
I assume that if
I had to leave because he came into my apartment with my 16-year-old daughter.
Listen to me. Miss Alvarez, you should not have canceled your check. Do you understand? If you had not canceled your check, once you gave it to him, we would not be here today. Because Mr. Price, I assume, has better things to do than to come to court. You irritated him by writing out a check and then canceling it. And you didn't move out until after November 1st. So he's entitled not only to a half a month's rent, he's entitled to a full month's rent. And you damaged the floor. I don't care about the painting, I don't care about anything else. Normal wear and tear, maybe a little bit more, but he spent $1,000 to sand the floors because of damage that was done to the floors. So you lost your security deposit. But we wouldn't be standing here today if you moved out of the apartment on October 31st.
I had to leave, Your Honor. I had to. I had to.
Listen, Miss Alvarez, to me, you're not a victim, madam. I know that you're putting on your victim face to me, but you're not a victim. You had the opportunity to leave on October 31st. You told him you were going to leave. You gave him notice that you were going to leave, and you were going to leave in October. Instead, you stayed till November. And if you paid him for the first 2 weeks in November and decided that for one reason or another your new apartment wasn't ready, you couldn't move when you thought you were going to move, the other tenants didn't move out of the new place, so you needed an extra few days, what date did you move into your new apartment?
October the 15th I moved in. I paid extra so I can have both to get my stuff out.
So you had a place that you could stay and live on October 15th?
Yes, I believe it was October. It was both.
So you gave him money so that you could move slowly, paint, decorate, do whatever you had to do.
No, that's not true.
Well, then what did you pay him rent for from November 1st till November 15th, Miss Alvarez?
Because I was
You said you gave him a check.
Weeks.
And the check was from November 1st to November 15th, $735, and then you canceled it.
I canceled it because he came into the place where
I don't want to
still
hear that
at.
again. I'm not interested. I don't care. I want to know why you gave him a check from November 1st to November 15th if you had another premises that you were paying rent on starting October 15th.
I think it was October the 15th. I'm not sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $735. Your counterclaim's dismissed, Miss Alvarez. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. That's case number 207 on the calendar, the matter of Peters versus Ward.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Peters, you and Miss Ward were roommates. It is your claim that after a failed road trip that didn't work out as well as you expected, Ms. Ward decided to stay home.
Yes.
And she left you in the lurch with the lease. You want her to pay the rent. In addition, you say that she stole some money from you and that she at some point damaged your car You wanted to pay for that.
Yes.
Ms. Ward says she was pregnant, decided to stay home with her parents, I assume, that she denies taking any of your money, and she says that the damage to the car just didn't happen. She also says that your boyfriend moved in with you into the apartment and he wasn't paying his fair share of the rent. So, is this your boyfriend?
Yes.
How many people signed the lease to the apartment?
2, me and Holly.
Did Holly have a boyfriend living with her?
No.
But your boyfriend was living with you?
He wasn't living there. He was.
Yeah, he is.
yes,
he lives
he was.
there. He lives there. Don't tell me he wasn't living there. He lives there. Don't speak unless I speak to you. You want me to get the address that you listed, sir, when you filled out the forms for this program?
Yes.
Do you want me to get the forms that you filled out with the
Yes.
address?
I put 718.
And who lives there?
My mother.
What's your mother's phone number?
She doesn't have a phone.
Oh, everybody has a phone,
But
sir.
there's a number you could reach her at, but she don't have a phone herself.
You get what I'm saying to you, madam?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. When did you sign this lease with the defendant?
On December 1st, 2006.
And when did you take this road trip?
In the beginning of April, like April
15th.
Where's the father of this baby that you're having?
In Ohio,
And where are you living now?
Alabama.
Who went on the road trip?
The 3 of us.
Whose car did you use?
Amanda's.
You got stopped and you were all arrested for drug possession, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
What happened with your case?
I got 2 years probation.
What about you?
I just got charged as a misdemeanor and got fined. She got charged with all that because she was pregnant.
I got charged
Doing
with a
drugs while
misdemeanor
she
and got
was
a
pregnant.
We all 3 got, well, me and Amanda got charged with possession too.
And what about you?
I did 31 days because wouldn't nobody sign for me.
Now, he got 30 days because he had prior possessions.
No, I got 30 days. That is untrue, Your Honor.
Now, what is the rent?
It's $500 a month.
Stand up. Your last name?
Lucky, L-E-C-K-E-Y.
I'm not so sure.
I heard that.
Who do you work for?
I work for Ford.
What do you do for them?
I clean cubicle offices.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Peters?
I'm a waitress.
Fine. Mr. Lucky,
Yes.
you may have to kick in for some rent, sir. Do you understand?
I wasn't standing there at the time.
Well, now
Yes, he was.
Now, just a second. Just a second. Now you can stay there.
Well, she shouldn't have signed
Lucky.
my lease.
Mr. Lucky, when did you arrive from Ohio?
We arrived Tuesday.
24th.
The
You arrived Tuesday.
Yesterday.
Shh.
Yes.
And where are you staying?
I'm staying at the Sheraton Hotel.
And where are you staying, Miss Peters?
At the Sheraton Hotel.
In the same room?
Yes.
And when you go back to Ohio, you're going to go back and stay with your mother. Is that what you're telling me?
And yes,
I'm
after
giving you
this case
permission. You
matter.
could stay with Miss Peters.
I didn't
And now
want to
you're
stay
going to
with
pay.
her because
And now
of
you're
this
going to pay
issue.
the rent. Sit down.
No,
Who brought the marijuana into the car?
All 3 of us did.
That wasn't mine.
no.
All
was
3 of
Holly.
us did. All 3
Holly
of us
did.
did. We all 3 went to jail for the possession.
It's not what I asked you. I said, who brought it into the car?
Holly.
Holly.
Lucky. I didn't. Lucky sells marijuana.
Oh, okay.
That's
No,
his
no,
job
that's
prior
a
to
lie.
2
Not
months
true.
before. He didn't have this job now.
That's a lie. She
Now,
made that up.
shh. Now, when is your baby due?
I already had him.
You already
June
had your baby.
29th, yes.
And who's taking care of your baby now?
My mother.
Baby healthy?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't stupid enough to smoke marijuana while you were pregnant,
Actually, I
were
was.
you? Yeah.
That's how she got 2 years.
That's,
Was drinking and a whole bunch of other stuff she
I
did
didn't
while she
drink
was
with my
pregnant.
baby. My baby was perfectly
Yes, you
healthy,
did.
born 4 weeks early, didn't need anything. 6 pounds, 8 ounces.
great. Okay. So now, Miss Peters,
Yes.
now you have your boyfriend living with you. How big is this apartment, by the way?
It's a 2-bedroom apartment.
Well, Your Honor, at first, when I first moved in with Amanda, it was in March of 2005. Lucky moved in June of 2005. We were all living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Then his cousin moved in, Lewis, with his baby mama, Shataya. We all 5 lived there. I still paid half the rent.
Just
they
a
didn't pay
second.
nothing.
No.
Just a second. How long?
And
Quiet.
his cousin got a job at our job.
Just a second. How long did his cousin and his
They lived
baby
there.
mama live there?
They lived there
What?
from October till December when we got our 2-bedroom and they got their 1-bedroom apartment.
What's your cousin's name?
My cousin's name is Lewis, and he was not living there.
Yes, he was, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
listen. I
Okay,
am
he'll
very,
move
very
from
unhappy
there.
about
Yeah.
this whole situation. All I can tell you, Ms. Peters, is now you can have your boyfriend full-time. Your boyfriend of 6 years full-time. He's going to live with you and he's going to pay the rent. You get nothing from her. Next.
What?
Now, let's talk about this stolen money. You say that she stole money from you.
Yes.
You
No,
know
from
this.
her and her
Shh,
boyfriend.
I don't want to hear you.
Okay.
I'm not happy with you either. Anyone who smokes dope while they're pregnant is an idiot.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When the wallet came up missing, she had to have been there. Otherwise, how could she
Yeah.
get it? Not from Ohio to Alabama.
No,
she has
it
that
was
very
months
long
ago.
arms.
And later today,
Where do you think it's all his responsibility?
Because he was told to put it back and he didn't.
Who told him to put it back?
All of them.
They did not tell him to put it back. What are you, nuts?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Amanda Peters claims ex-roommate Holly Ward owes for breaking an apartment lease, stealing money from her wallet, and for damaging her car.
Now, tell me about this alleged money.
All right. I gave my boyfriend $300 to put up for me. I was going to put my car in the shop and have some work done to it. Well, I picked him up one night. He was going to come spend the night with me. The wallet came up missing that night while he was at the house. Yeah, I went to drop him off the next morning, and the wallet wasn't there.
And?
And he said it was Holly all along. I mean, I really didn't think it was at first, but I found the wallet in her room when I was cleaning it out after she left.
Where's the wallet?
It's right here.
Let me see it.
Can I?
Shh.
Okay.
When, for the first time, did you tell Holly about the missing wallet?
I didn't tell her.
You didn't tell her?
No, she was in Alabama when I found it.
You didn't call her?
No.
No, I'm not saying when you found it. Listen to me. Miss Peters, when the wallet came up missing, she had to have been there. Otherwise, how could she
Yeah.
get it? Not from Ohio to Alabama.
No,
she has
it
that
was
very
months
long
ago.
arms. Now, so when did you first discuss with her the fact that this wallet was missing?
Oh, it was around the time when we moved into our two-bedroom apartment. So
And how
around
long did you
December-
live in the two-bedroom apartment?
I'm still there now. So from December until now.
How long did she live there?
Until April 15th.
So the wallet came up missing in December.
Yes.
And you found it when?
When I came back May 9th or 8th, I mean.
Yeah, do me a favor. Return that to her. Tell me about the damaged car.
She damaged my car, parallel parking it.
When?
In November, the first week of November.
November of 06?
Yes, ma'am.
Show me the bill where you had it fixed.
I haven't gotten it fixed yet. I haven't had the money. But I have an estimate from where we both took it in. She came with me when I
No.
got the estimate.
Oh, well, tell me how it happened.
Oh, she parallel.
I didn't ask
He
you.
was in the car. I wasn't in the car. She asked to borrow my car one day, and she brought it back with these scratches on the front bumper.
Let
he
me
was
see
in
the
car.
pictures of the front bumper. How did you scratch the bumper?
I didn't scratch the front of her car.
Who did?
Lucky. He was on his way to school in November, and at a red light, he
That's
hit
a
the
lie.
back of another car.
I have a picture of the
That's
truck
a
that
lie.
she hit also with the dent in the bumper
Just a
where
second.
she
She
hit
says
it.
it was Lucky.
That's
It
a lie,
wasn't.
Your Honor.
She went with me when I got the statement.
I did not go with her. I was at work when she got that statement done with
She
Lucky.
she had borrowed Amanda's car, and I needed to go home that following morning.
He was
And
living
she
with us.
had-
Why would I
I
take him
don't
home?
want you to interrupt. If you interrupt again, it's not going to be good for you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So on the way taking me home to my mother's house, she was trying to parallel park in front of another car, and she hit the back.
On the way,
back
she was
end of-
trying to parallel park?
No, when we got to my mother's house.
Why was she going to parallel park if she was
Because
just dropping you off?
Because she was parking to drop me off.
Why was she parking to drop you off? Why didn't she just come?
She was the driver.
I don't believe it. Goodbye. You all deserve each other. That's it. Case is dismissed. Take him outside, Bert. You can't look at him.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She knows she owes me money. She's a liar.
She wanted money because obviously her boyfriend, who has been living with us, hasn't been paying bills, and he's probably not doing it now.
She stole some money from me. I didn't find out about it until I came home. She wrecked my car, never paid for it.
All three of us smoked marijuana. He had drugs in our apartment all the time. He was selling them. I helped him sell them.
She put it in the glove compartment, and they pulled us over. And when they found the marijuana in the glove compartment, they charged everybody with it.
Don't smoke while you're pregnant.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cotton versus Stritt matter, step forward, please.
Julie and David Cotton are suing family friend, 18-year-old Dylan Strittmatter, for crashing a golf cart during their wedding reception. Dylan claims He is not guilty.
Who was getting married?
Julie and I.
According to your complaint, Miss Cotton, your family lives on the river.
Correct.
Is that where the wedding was?
Yes.
The defendant is the son of an old family friend, and because there was so much land and the venue was spread out, you rented 2 golf carts to sort of help people get from one place to another, especially people who might have been a little older. Those golf carts were just rented for the event. It is your claim that the defendant, without permission, drove one of those golf carts and damaged it. You're being charged by the rental company for the damage to the golf cart, and you want him to pay for it.
Correct.
Who saw Mr. Strittmatter riding the golf cart?
Tristan Hall.
How old are you, Mr. Hall?
18.
What do you know about Mr. Strittmatter and the golf cart?
Well, I was the guy in charge of taking people to and from the parking to the wedding, and we were at the reception.
At the golf cart, with
Right.
a golf cart.
Right. And after the wedding, we went to the reception, and we had the 2 golf carts parked over there. And we were all sitting around eating, and I saw them take off in the golf cart, and we just went out. I went out there after them to see what.
Saw who taking off?
Dylan and Greg.
That's Dylan would be you?
Yes.
And who's Greg?
I'm Greg.
Perfect, I love it. No, I didn't ask you to go over there yet.
Well,
I didn't ask you to go over there yet.
Okay. That is a lot.
I didn't go over.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Oh, Miss Cotton, you're going to talk to me. You, me. Maybe you're used to getting the last word. I'm trying to tell you, it's your responsibility to ensure no underage drinking at your venue.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie and David Cotton claim family friend Dylan Strittmatter owes for crashing a golf cart during their wedding reception.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I went out there, and we were just riding. We were riding around for a little while.
Who was riding around?
Me, Dylan, and Greg.
How did you get on the golf cart?
Because I went out there. When I saw him riding around, I walked out there.
So you walked outside, and the 3 of you got on the golf cart.
Right. Well, they were on it first. I went out there after they were already on it. I went out there.
Who drove?
They were driving. We all took turns driving.
Who drove first?
Tristan drove first, but there's also a 4th person in the party. Their son Chase was also in the golf cart, and he also drove it with us.
Is that right?
Chase was in the golf cart, yes.
So who drove first?
I guess I drove first.
Who drove second?
Chase drove second.
Who drove third?
I drove third.
All right, what happened next?
Okay, so we're driving around, and we were just driving around with the golf cart, and after a little while, I said, okay, we should probably bring this back. So we were on our way back down this road, and that's whenever he thought he could make it through these 2 rocks, if that's what you want to call them. They were more like boulders, and then he just ran into one of them.
Now, did you know you weren't supposed to be driving around in that golf cart at that time?
In the back of my mind, I did.
And did you know you weren't supposed to be hey, did you look at me? Did you know you weren't supposed to be driving around in the golf cart at that time?
Yes, I knew that.
Did you know you weren't supposed to be driving around at that time? And I assume your son knew that he wasn't supposed to be driving around that time.
That's correct.
So what are you suing him for?
Because he had been drinking at the wedding at my mom's, and I had told him to put it down, and I saw them take off, but mind you, I'm in the middle of my reception, and I heard them, and so did my friends, hear them screaming, come on, let's go get on the golf cart. It was just those 2, and they were drunk at our wedding. They did take it. The owner of the...
Your son was there. How old is he?
13.
What'd you do to him?
Actually, both of my sons had told them, and so had Tristan, to stop, and he was driving
They were driving around in the golf cart.
Well, a little more than driving. He was driving erratically.
Just a second. Where do you think it's all his responsibility?
Because he was told to put it back, and he didn't.
Who told him to put it back?
All of them.
They did not. They were driving around with it. They did not tell him to put it back. What are you, nuts? Listen, Miss Cotton.
Yes.
If you're telling me that you saw them get in the golf cart and drive around with it, and you didn't leave your reception to go and stop them from driving around with it.
My oldest son actually did.
He's not here. You, not your son. Your 13-year-old was in the golf cart.
Right, but my oldest son also took the keys from them.
Did you see that?
No, but they all told me, and the owner of the golf cart.
I can't tell you anything, Miss Cotton. You have a responsibility. A golf cart is an attractive nuisance. That's what it is for young people. That's why your 13-year-old got in the golf cart.
He admitted to wrecking it and told us he was sorry.
They were all involved in it. If anything, he's responsible for a quarter of it, not for the whole thing. Your son is responsible. Therefore, you're responsible
My
for a
son
quarter.
is 13.
He's responsible for a quarter. He's responsible for a quarter. He's not responsible for the whole damage to the golf cart. They shouldn't have been in the golf cart to begin with. And if you saw them and you're the grown-up, you should have seen to it that they weren't in the golf cart.
Can I say something?
Listen, if you knew he was drinking, what's the drinking age where you are anyway?
21.
If he got hurt and he had been drinking at your wedding, he would have owned that house on the river.
I can't control him. He's not my child.
Oh, yes, you can. You can put him out of your house.
He wasn't at our house. It was an open field. We weren't there. He went off in a different area.
Miss Cotton, it's your responsibility when you have an event to ensure that there is no underage drinking. And based upon what you tell me, you saw him drinking and drunk at your wedding. You then saw him get into a golf cart and drive away. And it was your reception, and you couldn't do anything about it because you didn't want to leave the reception. That's what you told me.
I didn't see him get in. I heard them say they were going to do it and take off, and people were
Ms.
sent
Cotton, I'm
after
getting
them.
less and less sympathy for you. I mean, that doesn't give him any right to do that. And he's going to pay for 1/4 of the damage. But I have less and less sympathy for you. You planned a wedding, and you had a bunch of kids, including these two people, not only the defendant, who were drinking at your wedding. And that's your responsibility. You are responsible for the venue. That's what the law says. And if they had gotten into a car instead of a golf cart, and instead of going between a boulder and scratching your golf cart, which is what he did, he got into his car and he killed somebody, you know who they'd come after? You. That's what the law says.
I didn't serve him the alcohol, and he stole
You
it.
did serve him alcohol.
I did.
Duh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now,
Oh, actually, we didn't serve him the alcohol.
you did serve him alcohol.
Well, it's in a bar area. Anybody can walk to the bar and get it.
He didn't get it from the bar. He did go and take
Did you get it from the bar?
Actually, there was a fountain outside the wedding reception that had
Right.
wine, and there was a cup there and cups, and you could just go in and pour yourself some.
And did you not look at me and I told
Just a
you to put
second.
it down?
Just a second.
Oh,
Is
yes,
that what
you
you're
did,
telling me?
Dylan.
Then what you do is when you have children and you have open alcohol, you ensure that the children who are there don't drink the alcohol.
Well,
Miss Cotton, you're going to talk to me. You, me. Maybe you're used to getting the last word. I'm trying to tell you that based upon 16 years of education and 30 years in the judicial system, it's your responsibility to ensure no underage drinking at your venue. Do you understand?
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost to fix this golf cart?
$1,119.35.
Your responsibility is $279, young man. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $279, only because you have to accept a certain amount of responsibility. Think that's reasonable?
Sure.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy Keith claims she was sexually assaulted by the defendant, S. Lyle Marple, while riding with him on his jet ski.
Before we took off, he put his hands on my thighs, and I thought that maybe that's just the way he wanted to hold on. But he pulled his hands up higher into my bathing suit, and he forced himself inside me.
The defendant denies the plaintiff's allegations.
She had nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Like what?
Money, because she was going to sue. More drugs, because she could go to the doctor. So she had the sympathy of everybody feeling sorry for her about this thing that happened, which didn't happen.
And his witness thinks he has the proof.
We have a videotape showing that she had a wonderful time through the whole party.
Now, the conclusion.
I want to see the video. You have it?
Yes, we do.
Let me see it.
I can explain scenes that I see.
Are there scenes of the plaintiff?
Yes.
After this incident?
Yes.
All right, let me see after the ride.
You're doing great.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Come on, pose a little bit.
This is good music, Rob.
Oh, you like that, huh? Yeah. Little third world. It's the most beer I've ever seen Stanley drink. How you doing, Stan? You having a good
Is this
time?
before or after the ride?
This is after the ride. As you can see Stanley where he had his vest on, his t-shirt still wet. It's dry where the vest covers his shirt. But this is after the
Now,
ride.
is that, just a second, is that Stanley dancing around?
That's Stanley dancing around.
All right, that's Stanley dancing.
And that was the defendant.
Was that her dancing?
She's floating in and out.
Do the dancing, baby. Come on, do the dancing, baby.
Do it,
I'm
Stan.
talking to my husband, Your Honor.
Do the dancing, baby.
Come on, Pam, do it.
If you notice what's going in the background, Your Honor, this gentleman's wife was attempting.
You didn't do it. Hey, Cam! That, you know? Cam almost pulled Stan's pants down, but she chickened out at the last minute.
Okay. Mr. Heath, it did appear that your wife was not at least overtly traumatized. This was after the incident.
Yes,
I believe she was in shock, Your Honor.
You're not an expert.
That's true.
You are not a psychiatric expert.
That's true, Your Honor. I've been with my wife for 12 years, and I know her very well, and I know the difference of how she was feeling before and after the ride.
Well, you couldn't tell that she was feeling badly afterwards.
I could tell that the people that we normally hang out with, she totally avoided.
You couldn't tell from looking at that your wife had just suffered a traumatic event.
That's true.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
I didn't want him to know, Your Honor.
It may be, but you have the possibility of just withdrawing at the party and sitting down, sitting, having a drink, not saying anything, but you were participating at the party
I was
at this.
Flying all over the place.
You were
Your
flying
Honor.
all over the place. Had you had anything to drink before you went on the Sea-Doo?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you have to drink?
Snow Creek wine.
What is that?
It's like a Boone's Farm. And I was in the pool so much, I just come back and put ice in it.
Okay, so how many drinks did you have?
One. And also this gentleman's wife and I went to the store to buy a bottle of Malibu rum. And I had a little bit of Malibu rum in with that, but then again, I just kept putting ice in it. I'm not a drinker, Your Honor.
Okay, what about you, sir? How much did you have to drink?
I had like a beer or two, and then later on I had a few more beers.
Did you drink anything other than beer?
No.
Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, at the end of the party, it was strange because I've really had an enjoyable time with these people. And at the end, after it was that diffusing, she gave me a kiss, my wife a kiss, Stanley a kiss. My wife she spent 80% of the time with this lady in the pool, and it's on the tape. You see them that they're together all the time. My wife has things to say.
I'd like to
It
hear.
also says in here that she needed to be on medication for the rest of her life. And
Sit down.
all right, but Pam.
Yes.
I did spend most of the time at the party with Andy, and we did have a really good time. We drank quite a bit. The bottle of Malibu rum that she did bring, I had one glass, and I know that it was empty at the end of the party.
That's
and I'll admit that we were both drunk at the party. When she left, she was very drunk. Her whole demeanor throughout the party with her, she didn't act like anybody that had anything happen to them. I am an RN, I work in an emergency room, and I do take care of women who are sexually assaulted or raped.
Did you see any marks or bruises on the plaintiff?
No, I never saw any marks or bruises, and also on the video, I never noted any marks or bruises on her.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, one other thing. Stanley did obtain her medical records, and it does show that she has been on psychiatric drugs and sedatives for years before this incident. Also has a history of psychiatric problems. It's right there on the paperwork.
What do you take Paxil for?
I was taking Paxil because my mother had 29 surgeries in less than a year.
Well, Paxil is a psychiatric drug. You know that?
Yes,
Shh.
sir.
Pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you start to take Paxil?
About 3 years ago.
So your answer to me that you were not taking any medication, listen to me. Your husband's answer.
Yes, ma'am.
So you telling me that your husband didn't know that you were taking Paxil?
Yes, he did, ma'am.
I don't even know what Paxil is for.
Lorazepam, what do you take that for?
For sleeping. Not any longer.
But you did then?
Yes, ma'am.
When was your last prescription?
Approximately a year ago.
This happened on the 19th of August, 2000?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you go to the doctor on the 2nd of August?
I don't recall, Your Honor.
Did you complain to the doctor at that point that you had a rash on your back, some on your legs, and also in the vaginal area?
No, not in the vaginal area. I don't remember that. I do remember
That's what the doctor reports.
Okay, well then
Miss
that is
Heath.
possible, Your Honor.
That was on the 2nd. He increased your Paxil to 40 milligrams, is that right?
I believe so, yes, Your Honor.
You also called July 27th, indicating that you were going out of town to take care of your brother and you'll run out of your Paxil. And when they called to check at the pharmacy, they indicate that you had 4 refills for Walgreens.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you had enough.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were also taking sleeping pills before.
Yes, Your Honor.
At some point, did the doctor tell you that they wanted to wean you off these sleeping pills?
I wanted to wean it off.
Doctor reported sometime prior to this that you wanted some additional medication, and the doctor explained that that would be a fraud. Explained to patient that she'll need to be seen before we can refill the lorazepam. Patient states she'll see what she can do to get in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Doctor reports that you started to take some medication due to an attempted suicide in September of 1999, owing to stress. Did you attempt suicide in 1999?
No, Your Honor. That was September of 2000, Your Honor.
September of 1999.
No, Your Honor.
Is what this report indicates. You take a lot of Paxil and a lot of the other medication, according to this report.
Not anymore, Your Honor.
Wow.
I'm on different medication.
What kind of medication are you on?
I'm on trazodone and Effexor. Trazodone is for sleep, Effexor is for antidepressant.
But that wasn't as a result of
And
this
Xanax.
incident.
Yes, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andy Heath says former friend S. Lyle Marble sexually assaulted her at a party. S. Lyle says Andy is lying.
There's a lot of information here. Is there anything else that you want me to read?
My answer to her complaint.
Well, that's self-serving, sir. Your answer is self-serving.
Your Honor, may I make a
Yes.
statement? Her and I did become very good friends. We have a friend in common. She made the interest in the fact that she enjoyed drinking Malibu rum, as did I. The Malibu rum was not empty, Your Honor. I still have it in my refrigerator.
Whether
as
it
of
was
this
or whether
day.
it was not, madam, are you given specific instructions when you take Paxil with regard to any alcohol?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you allowed to have any alcohol if you are taking medication?
No, and I drink wine.
You are not supposed to have any alcohol if you are taking Paxil. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were, in fact, taking Paxil, as well as other medication, on this day.
But that is not instructed on the Paxil bottle.
Miss Heath.
It is on Effexor.
Miss Heath, one of the problems is that when I asked that specific question before, whether there was ever any indication that you had a problem before this, your husband said never a problem, you don't take any medication, there was never any psychotropic medication, nothing. And so that would lend certain credibility to your statements that as a result of this incident, you became so traumatized that you now have stress, can't sleep, you're on medication. You know, all that goes together. But all that happened before. Your husband was not honest with me when he...
Your Honor, I
Mr.
didn't know.
Heath.
I'm not trying to be misleading.
Well, you were misleading to me. Your wife has been on heavy-duty medication for a long time. You know, this is a very, very difficult matter for anybody to handle in a relatively short period of time. There is no medical evidence of sexual assault. So I have to listen to the two testimonies. And I have to find to my satisfaction, by a preponderance of the evidence, that this did in fact occur. My initial reaction from hearing your story was that maybe everybody's a little drunk and he got a little out of hand. That pay careful attention to me. Don't interrupt me. That's why you ask questions, because before you find somebody, in effect, guilty of this kind of horrific experience, you have to be really satisfied. And as a judge and as a woman, I find that this kind of experience can be, and to most women would be, very traumatic. The response to that trauma would be to say to your husband, get your bathing suit, we're leaving. And then I see a tape, Ms. Heath, of you apparently partying afterwards. I would have to have some pretty substantial psychiatric testimony from a treating therapist that would indicate to me that due to this kind of stress, you may have been suffering a post-traumatic stress even during this period of time, which so altered your mood that would permit a video to be taken of you seemingly laughing and having a good time, encouraging your husband to dance. But I don't have that. Listen to me. I don't have that expert testimony.
Yes, ma'am, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
You're not
Excuse
paying
me?
attention.
I'm sorry.
I don't have what your therapist says happens here because I cannot examine your therapist.
Yes, ma'am.
I do not take this as fact.
Yes,
What I take as fact are your medical records that indicate that you were prescribed over a long period of time serious medication. You complained for a long period of time that as a result of stress you couldn't sleep. You asked the doctor on more than one occasion to provide more medication than the doctor would provide because he says you already have enough. You got that prescription filled 2 days ago. I'm not going to refill it again. That's objective data from the medical records. The statement from your therapist, Ms. Heath, is self-serving, and without that therapist here, I have a difficult time making a judgment, quite frankly, viewing the tape, looking at these medical records, listening to your husband, plus the fact that you decided, whether on advice of your therapist or not to take a polygraph test, despite the fact that he took one. And his polygraph test did not vindicate him, according to the detective's report, because I don't have the polygraph here either. It didn't say you did it. It didn't say you didn't do it. It said some of your answers were deceptive. But it didn't even say that you had declined to take a polygraph test.
She didn't decline. She offered to.
She didn't take it.
Right.
Because if she had taken it, they would have said she took it.
I have something very important to address to you.
Go ahead.
This tape that they have shown was before the ride, Your Honor, not after the ride.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
After the ride, I went over to make sure that I could hold myself together. And I gave him 5. I said, give me 5 to make sure I could hold myself together. And then he was nowhere around me until I was ready to leave, and he was sitting in my seat.
It was after the ride. In fact, if you look at the whole tape, there are parts in there where you can tell. At one point, he asked what time it was. It was like 6:30. You can kind of tell throughout the tape, you know, where he went and got his jet ski and took it back, and especially with him being wet. He only went out in the water. He never went in the pool once. He was only in the water twice. When she got back, we jumped in the water a couple times after that. She was having so much fun. We ran on the dock.
He walked right through the grate next to where I was.
We jumped off the dock and swam to the shore. We were having a great time.
Before the ride?
No, that was after the ride. And if she was assaulted, why would she let a little 13-year-old girl go on the boat right after him?
Don't ask them a question.
May I answer that?
No.
Your Honor.
Shh. Listen to me. Accusing someone of what I consider a vicious attack is serious business.
Yes, it is.
And I have to be totally satisfied
Yes.
that this incident occurred as you indicate.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're not talking about the money judgment that you're requesting so much.
No, ma'am.
But we're talking about making a statement publicly that this man violated you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In order for me to do that, I have to feel totally comfortable, Ms. Heath. So what is the objective evidence that I have? The objective evidence is that you were taking very serious medication for a substantial period of time before this happened, medication that should not be taken in conjunction with alcohol. You decided, for whatever reason, not to get your husband, which would have been a totally reasonable response, immediately afterwards and say, let's get out of here. We're getting out of here. I'm just talking to you about objective data. Do you understand? The objective data is I have a report here that indicates that you started to take medication, and you've been taking medication for stress for a very long time, and in your own hand or in the hand of another professional, it does say that you did in fact attempt suicide, something that you didn't tell me. I have the defendant, who probably, based upon his own statements and based upon the statements of his witness, wasn't too bright, because if he takes women on his ski-doo, what he does is he either holds on to the back of the jacket, puts his hand around his waist, and not be stupid, and grab them onto their waist where you might put your hands in and around their thigh area. That isn't smart. Do you understand? Not smart. That does not necessarily make you a sexual deviant. Okay. He says he did not do this. Your mother says she observed certain bruising on your thighs. The medical records indicate that the doctor who you saw during the month of August noted redness.
But not scratches.
There is no medical evidence of scratches, madam. If you went to the doctor immediately after this incident, which you did not do, and the doctor had looked at you and saw nail scratches, nail marks, something.
Ma'am, when I went to the doctor, he's known me so long, being so strong with my mom, that he didn't even look, he didn't even check. He just walked out of the room.
That may be. But this is the objective data that I do not have, which is probably why the police department there chose not to prosecute him.
Ma'am.
There was a prosecutor that wanted to.
The state.
He kept having it postponed, and they put somebody else in there who dropped the case.
It's been postponed and withdrawn for 7 months.
What I'm telling you is, when you have this kind of an assault, especially if you have this kind of an assault, and there was some indication that there was another child, a 13-year-old, who's not a witness here today, so I don't know that, was also inappropriately touched, then the prosecutors proceed. You may be 100% truthful. I, as a judge, have to deal with objective data. And based upon what I have seen, I cannot in good conscience label this man a sexual deviant. I cannot. Only you folks and your consciences know what happened that day. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Gray, when were you and the defendant divorced?
In 1995.
And how many children do you have?
1.
Your lawsuit involves the child.
Yes.
It is your claim that, pursuant to your judgment of divorce, each of you is required to pay 1/2 of the unreimbursed medical expenses for the child.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you took the child to see a psychologist.
Yes.
Child was treated by this psychologist, and you want the defendant to pay 1/2 of that bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Which was how much? $300 and some odd dollars?
For the psychologist alone, it was $195 for her part.
And then?
The medical expenses totaled up $595 for her part.
What were the rest of the medical expenses for?
Doctor's visits for attention deficit disorder, his checkups, medication.
Over what period of time did you have him treated?
From 1998 up to present date.
When did you first present her with the bill?
My wife and I have presented her with the bills every few months all along, and she's refused to pay every time.
What reason did she give you for not wanting to pay?
She says she doesn't have to pay. The courts aren't going to make her.
Ms. Gray, was your son diagnosed as having attention deficit disorder?
Yes.
Your defense is that he took him to a doctor that was out of plan.
Yes.
And therefore, since you're covered by some sort of a health plan, is it a private health plan or is it a state health plan?
State.
That since he could have gotten the treatment for nothing, you shouldn't have to pay anything?
Yes.
Are you the primary custodian for the child?
Yes.
Why didn't you take the child then to the doctor?
He was 4 years old. I was going to wait until he started school and see if it was something that he would grow out of.
Well, clearly he didn't.
Once he established the doctor down in Bakersfield, my pediatrician tried to keep in touch with him. Because of the medication, we were trying to keep it in one place. And I am right now, under my pediatrician's recommendation, having a reevaluation done.
So you consented to him taking the child to this doctor after 1998?
I didn't consent to it. He never told me about it.
No, he did tell you about it. Initially, he had to have told you because if the child was prescribed medication in 1998 and you are the child's primary custodian, you would have had to have given the child medication when the child was with you.
Yes, I do give him the medication.
So if you gave him the medication, then you knew that the child had a diagnosis, which I'm sure you discussed with your former husband, so you consented to it.
Yes, with my doctor's consent.
Fine. You didn't say to him at that time, Miss Gray, I don't want you to take the child to your doctor anymore. I will take care of it here.
I've tried to.
You didn't?
No,
Can I see your judgment of divorce, please?
I have told him that. I've never been presented a bill either.
Okay, well, this order clearly says that both parties shall be responsible for 1/2 of all such expenses not otherwise covered by insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So when I asked you that question, Miss Gray, you clearly knew when the child was 4 that the child had certain problems, and that you said you wanted to wait until he got to school to see whether the problems would resolve themselves.
He was my first child, and I assumed that it was basically being a 4-year-old child, just busy and playing, and I had him in Head Start. They didn't see any reason to take him in for a diagnosis at that time. My pediatrician wanted to keep it separate and just keep in contact with that doctor that he took him to, who is...
So you consented to him taking the child to that doctor?
I guess
If you
I did.
consented to him taking the child to that doctor, under the terms of your judgment of divorce, you are responsible for 1/2 of the unreimbursed medical bills.
I provided him with a Medi-Cal card. He chose to take him to a doctor that didn't accept Medi-Cal and now wants me to pay for it. And I have provided him with insurance, which he is court-ordered to provide, and he doesn't.
Do you?
Yes, that's the Medi-Cal. I provide that for him.
How do you provide Medi-Cal for him?
I get AFDC because I can't work.
Well, then the state
For
provides it.
7
You don't
years.
provide it. I provide it. Bird provides it, but you don't provide it. You
It's
don't
because
provide
I
it.
can't work.
Whatever. You don't provide it. You can't say, I provide him insurance. You don't provide him with insurance.
He's got insurance because of me.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Gray. Is it true that your former wife is unemployed?
Yes, she has been for 7 years.
So how do you expect her to pay this money?
She gets AFDC, and she is living with the father of her other 2 children that has a $45,000 a year income.
How can you get AFDC if you are married?
I'm not married.
That I'm not worried
Just a
about.
second.
She's not married to the man. She's living with him.
Do you have other children?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
5 and 2.5.
Well, why can't you work?
Because I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. In 1998, the counselor that Cody was seeing didn't want me to work because they wanted me home with him. After that, the county didn't want me to work because I had a child under the age of 1. Then my current doctor does not want me to work because of the fibromyalgia. I've got the papers and the documents.
I mean, I'm just curious. If you can't work, but you can have 2 young children, and you're living with somebody now full time, and you have 2 children with that person, and that person is employed?
Yes.
What kind of work does that person do?
He's a roofer.
He's a roofer. You live in your own home?
We rent a duplex, yes.
Okay. Can I see the bills, please?
We aren't married because of this. Because in the last 6 years, he's taken me to court 7 times over custody issues.
What does that have to do with not being married?
My fiance is afraid that it's going to affect his income and his taxes.
Well, it may, but you can't choose not to work.
I'm not choosing not to work.
Yes, you choose not to work. You cannot choose not to work if you have a financial obligation for this child who is older.
He's $11,979 in debt to child support. I'm not choosing not to work. I tried to work in October, from October 9th of 2000.
Ms. Gray, when you have 2 children and you live with a man as a family, and the reason you are not married is to avoid certain obligations.
I'm not avoiding obligations.
Yes, you are. If you're living with a man who is a roofer, who earns a substantial living, and you have 2 children with him, and you're getting welfare, that, according to me, is a scam. That's a scam.
The county knows about it, and
the county may know about it. The county may have its head up behind, but I don't.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Gray says ex-wife Bethany Gray refuses to pay for half their son's medical bills. Bethany says Richard refuses to use a doctor covered by her insurance.
Miss Gray, I've been in family court for a very, very long time. There is no question that if you married the man who is the father of your 2 young children, you would not be receiving welfare.
Every time
there is no
question to get married, he has taken me to court. He has harassed me through court 7 times in 6 years, trying to get custody. And the judge in Kern County finally moved venue from Kern County to Placer County because he has done harassing me.
Ms. Gray, that is not harassing.
Courts.
If he is trying to exercise his right to get custody of his child for whatever reason, because he feels as if it's in the child's best interest, and it very well may be in the child's best interest. I don't know. I'm not hearing that case. That is not harassment. What I said to you was very clear and simple. You live with a man with whom you have 2 young children. You are not married, and there is no question that if you married this man with whom you are living, you would not be receiving welfare.
I'm
Period.
not concerned
End of
about
discussion.
the welfare. I've done it to keep the health insurance on my son because he doesn't pay child support. He doesn't carry health insurance.
Just 1 second. He doesn't pay child support to you, madam. He pays child support, whatever he pays, to the county because the county is supporting you. Has nothing to do with you.
I have a check stub where they take my child support straight out of my payroll.
Whatever child support he pays goes directly to welfare. And I'm telling you that if you were, in fact, married to the man who is the father of your 2 children, you wouldn't be receiving support from Bird.
We haven't been able to get married because of this man.
Then you shouldn't be able to have 2 children with him. What do you mean you haven't been able to get married? That's ridiculous.
We can't afford it. Every time we have set a wedding date, he's taken me back to court. He does this on a regular basis.
Listen to me, Ms. Gray. You're not following what I'm saying to you. You owe him for half of the unreimbursed medical bills for your son since 1998. Your pediatrician said to you, let the doctor who's been treating him continue to treat him. You said, okay, you are responsible under the judgment of your divorce for half of the unreimbursed bills. You're going to pay them. What are the bills in total? Come on.
They come to $723 for her part.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $723. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The person can only milk the system for so long before they have to be paid for what they agreed in court.
I'm not on welfare because I'm lazy. My doctor said I cannot work.
She needs to pay her part. It took 2 of us to bring him here. It's going to take 2 of us to raise him.
I want him to leave me alone, visit with his son, and just leave me alone.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cantor versus Ward Andrew. Step forward, please.
31-year-old psychotherapist Lisa Cantor is suing 49-year-old telemarketer Aduni Andrew and 35-year-old homemaker Maureen Ward. Lisa says the defendant's sons threw rocks at her car.
Miss Ward and Miss Andrews, would you have a seat? I'd like your boys to come up here, please. Step up, gentlemen. What is your first name?
Chad.
And yours?
DeAndre.
How old are you, Chad?
13.
And you, DeAndre?
13.
You know who I am?
Yes.
Seen me a couple of times?
Yes.
So you know what to expect?
Yes.
You know that when you're here, we only want to hear about what actually happened. No half-truths, no quarter-truths, no nothing. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You boys were playing outside on September 14th?
Yes. Yes.
Who were you playing with?
It was just me and him.
The 2 of you. And I want you to start out by knowing that I believe that you're not bad boys. You're kids.
Yes.
Were you throwing rocks?
Yes. Yes.
What were you throwing rocks at?
Cars. Cars.
And you were both throwing rocks at cars, right?
Yes. Yes.
How long had you both been throwing rocks at cars?
3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes.
Where were you standing when you were throwing rocks at these cars?
The corner. It was on the corner of Halldale.
Were you throwing rocks that were little rocks or bigger rocks?
Well, they wasn't too big.
Show me with your hands.
About that big.
A decent-sized rock. Where did you get the rocks from?
On the ground.
Did you pick up some?
Yes.
You have pretty good aim?
No. No, not really.
How many cars do you think you hit in that 2 or 3 minute period?
Well, I know I hit 1.
What about you?
None.
Is that because you had bad aim?
Yes.
Wasn't for lack of trying, right?
Yes.
You were trying to hit the cars.
Yes.
Did you tell that to your mother?
Yes.
And you?
Yeah.
Told that to your mother?
Uh-huh.
Did you tell it to her right away when this lady came calling and said that one of you had thrown a rock at her car?
Yes.
Hmm?
No, not me.
Who didn't fess up right away?
DeAndre.
When did you tell your mother that you were throwing rocks?
The same day.
That's not true.
What did she say to you?
She told me, did I throw the rock at Lisa's car? And I told her no.
That it wasn't the rock that you threw that hit the plaintiff's car. It was the rock that Chad threw that hit the plaintiff's car.
Yes.
But that was just lucky for you, right?
Yes.
Wasn't that you weren't aiming for the plaintiff's car, it's just that you didn't manage to hit it, right?
Yes.
Now let me ask you this question, DeAndre. I want you to think about this very carefully. If Chad wasn't with you on that day, do you think you would have been standing on the street and throwing rocks?
No.
What would you have been doing?
Probably home.
Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, Chad. If DeAndre wasn't with you, would you have been standing on the corner yourself throwing rocks?
No.
So the reason you were standing on the corner throwing rocks is because you were gathering strength from each other. It was the 2 of you doing it together.
Yes.
Having some fun together, right?
During school hours, to boot.
I'm making my point.
Okay.
And my point would be as follows to the mothers. Who is DeAndre's mother? This whole lawsuit is about whether or not DeAndre is as responsible as Chad is for the damage that was done to the plaintiff's car, whose car was hit by one of these rocks. You seem to think that because it was Chad's rock that hit the car, your son isn't responsible. Wrong. They are equally as responsible. It's just the luck of the draw that he didn't hit the car. That was a pretty dumb thing. You know that you could have really caused a terrible accident?
Yes.
So why did you do that? Were you bored?
No.
Well, what were you doing standing out there like 2 idiots, throwing rocks at cars?
Well, I was bored. I didn't have nothing to do.
Well, do you think if you were in school you wouldn't have been bored?
At the time, I was doing home study. Well, I still am.
Why were you doing home study? Did you get suspended?
Nah, not really. It's just
Well, not really is not an answer. Did you get suspended?
No.
How long have you been on home study?
Couple of months.
What about you?
No.
No what?
I wasn't bored.
Why weren't you in school?
Because I haven't had my papers yet.
What?
I haven't had my papers for Summit View, a private school I'm going to.
Can I see the bill for the car, please?
Sure.
It was like shooting fish in a barrel. $275. That's pretty cheap. One other thing, you have brothers and sisters?
3 brothers.
You have any younger brothers?
2.
And you?
I have 2 older sisters.
How old are they?
Well, my oldest sister is 30, and my youngest sister is 25.
Do they have children?
Yes.
Do you like their children?
Mm-hmm.
Your nieces and nephews?
Yeah.
You like them? So then let me ask you this. Let's say your little nieces and nephews are driving in a car with your sister, and somebody throws a rock at the car, and your sister swerves and hits a pole, and something happens bad to your nieces and nephews. How would you feel about the person who threw the rock?
I'll probably feel sad and...
Sad or angry?
Mad. Angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why would you feel angry?
Well, because somebody threw a rock at the car, and she had an accident.
Next time either one of you contemplates doing something that's not only foolish, but can be dangerous, I want you to think about how you would feel if somebody that you loved was sitting in a car and was hurt because somebody else was just having some fun. Because although you are 13 now, you're going to be 16 and 17 and 18. You're going to be driving a car one day, and either you're going to be responsible and think about your actions, or you're going to be foolish and cause accidents. You always have to say, how would I feel if somebody did that to me, or somebody I loved? You got it?
Yes.
Anything else you want to say?
That's it.
$137.50 for each. You have any questions about what I just did?
No.
Any questions?
No, I don't.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
22 on the calendar in the matter of Mika versus Coker. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Mika, according to your complaint, you signed up with the defendant's dating service.
Yes, I did, Your
You
Honor.
paid her a substantial amount of money, and according to you, she did not fulfill her end of the bargain.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Just a second. Miss Coker says that you do, in fact, have a contract with her that you signed, that you did perform her service, and that you're not entitled to a refund.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How did you find her service, Mr. Mika?
I looked it up in the phone book.
How did you choose her service over any of the others?
It was the only one in town. I live in a rural area.
So she was the only game in town?
Yes.
Did you make an appointment to see her?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Where did you go?
She came to my house.
On what date did she come to your home?
March 1st, 2002.
Tell me about the meeting.
All right, she came and she had told me that she'd had these people that she would introduce me to, and she said that basically that your trouble looking for people will be over. I'll send you, at first she said 10 to 15 referrals per month, but in the contract she wrote 6 to 8, and that I would pay $24.95 up front, and that I would get a minimum of 6 to 8 referrals per month for life or until I was married. So
okay.
She came.
That's $2,495.
That's correct, $2,495.
Okay.
So I had received 12 referrals at the time I signed up for the contract. Should I tell the rest of the story with it?
Absolutely.
Okay. The first person I went out with was a school teacher, and she thought would be a good match. And when I went out with her, we went to a restaurant, and she says, there's one thing I have to tell you. I think you're a really nice guy, Jim, but I am going out with someone. And Carol knew that at the time she set me up with you, and she should have never set me up with you. She also told me that she had paid $1,200 for the dating service, and her boyfriend had only paid $750. And she asked how much I paid, and I had to admit that I'd paid nearly $2,500. I had gone out with 2 of the other 12 people before I left for the state of Maine on June 17th, and at that time, neither one of those worked out. When I came back from Maine on October 31st, I called Carol again in November, assuming I would get more referrals, and she did not give me any, and she kept saying, I'll give you some later on. And on December 3rd, she told me that she had the perfect person for me, that I just have to pay her another $1,250 and she would give me that referral.
Why did you have to pay her another $12.50?
Because she said that the other person didn't have the membership fee, so I'd have to pay half her membership fee before she could introduce us, Your Honor.
And what did you say to her?
I said, no, I can't afford to do that.
That was in December of 2002.
Yes, in December. So I continued calling her until early January, hoping to find people. And at the beginning of January, I think it was either on the 7th or the 9th, she said, you know, I'll call you when I have someone. Don't call me, I'll call you. And after a month, when she hadn't called back, I filed a document stating that I wanted my money back within 10 days, otherwise it would take legal action.
Can I see the contract, please?
I've got a contract and the letter I sent. They're both here, Your Honor.
Thank you. The names written on top of this contract, are those the names of the people that she furnished you with, sir?
Yes, they are.
Okay. In your letter, you say that recently you told me personally that you could not fulfill the terms of our contract due to the fact that I am blind. Did she ever say that to you, sir? Or did she say the reason I'm having difficulty is because you're blind?
Well, she said that it's hard to find people because you're blind. That's what she told me.
Okay. I just wanted the exact language, sir.
Right.
She didn't say I'm not able to fulfill the contract because
Right.
of your
She said she can't find people for me because I'm blind.
Okay, fine. Okay, Ms. Coker, now I'll hear you.
Your Honor, first of all, Mr. Micah joined my service on March the 4th. In fact, I have his contract here.
I have a copy of it. I'm looking at it.
Okay. All right. At this time, when I had given him the ladies' names and numbers, he told me he was a very proud man. He told me that he had a dog named Gidget and that he walked 10 to 12 miles per day and that he was very self-sufficient and that he could maintain his livelihood and so forth. So when he met even the one lady that he's speaking of particularly, okay, when he joined the dating service, I gave him her number as well as many other ladies' names and numbers.
I got you. So,
okay.
let's go.
Also, he asked me not to hold him being blind against him, and I told him I do not discriminate. I am
no.
not.
All right, so now I have some specific questions for you. Did you ever say to him that you had someone that you thought would be perfect, but that that person could not afford to pay their membership? And would he be interested in paying for one half of her membership so that you could make the introduction?
No, ma'am. That statement was not made, ever.
In December, you never had someone that you thought was great for him, but who couldn't come up with the membership in your
No, ma'am.
organization?
I told him then that the lady had moved and that she was having trouble coming up with her funds, and as soon as she got her tax refund, she was going to join the dating service. At that time, I asked him if he would work with me. He said yes. I had
work with him how?
Give me time to get more people in, that I would reduce my cost, that I would give free memberships to ladies for him to meet. I would do anything.
Well, why don't you do that with this lady?
Well, because bottom line, Your Honor, I'm not God. I have no control over people losing jobs.
Oh, listen to me. You're not following. You're doing a lot of double talking. You can't go to double talk me, Miss Coker. You just said to me that you had a lady that you thought was suitable for him in December. The only problem is she had lost her job and she didn't have the funds to join your service.
Correct.
So you were going to wait for her to get some funds to join your service before you introduced her to Mr. Mika.
That's correct.
And 2 seconds before you said you told him that you were going to reduce your fee or not charge a fee so that he could, in fact, meet people.
Ma'am, that was in December.
That's what I'm saying to you. That was in December.
Correct.
So?
In January was when I told him I would start reducing my fee to the
Why
ladies.
didn't you do it in December? You weren't fulfilling your contract in December. Why didn't you do it in
Ma'am,
December?
he was still seeing the lady that he was originally had met through my dating service.
Were you dating somebody then, Mr. Mika?
No, Your Honor, I was not.
Okay. My next question, Ms. Coker, is, do you have one set fee for everyone? Answer the question, madam.
Yes. Yes, I have one set fee for everyone.
Okay. Now, so that if I were to pick up the telephone and call these 12 women, they would tell me that each of them paid $2,495 for your service.
According to what time they joined the service, how long they've been in the service.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking, you're double talking me again.
Ma'am, what I'm stating is that when cost of advertising goes up, I have to increase my price. Okay?
In March of 2002.
If someone...
It's very easy to find out, Ms. Coker. I'm speaking. In March of 2002, in April of 2002, and in February of 2002, are you telling me that everyone who joined your service paid $2,495?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Mika, you have the telephone number of this woman that you...
I can give it to you. It's 352.
Mm-hmm. Well, she might be working now, but let's try it.
Your Honor, may I speak?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
When you say you were with Patty, had you spent Christmas with her?
Yes.
Not with Miss Lipman?
I spent Christmas morning with her.
So that you were really leading kind of a double life.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Mika claims he was ripped off by dating service owner Carol Coker. Carol insists she lived up to her part of their agreement.
Well, first of all, you'd be happy to know that she is no longer seeing the guy. But she likes you as a friend. She's crazy about your dog. She paid half what you did for your membership. She paid $1,200. And she joined about a year and a half ago. So you have different amounts that you charge for different people. You charged him twice as much. Any reason for that, Miss Coker?
Ma'am, she joined a year and a half or 2 years ago.
No.
She did not join the day that Jim Micah joined.
That's not what I'm saying to you, Miss Coker. Don't play with me. Your advertising costs didn't double in 4 months. You say to me, when your costs go up, that goes up.
That is correct.
Mr. Mika, I'm not going to play with this case anymore. I think that she took advantage of you. I think that she took advantage of you financially. I think that she does have different amounts of money that she charges different people. I don't think that there is any set fee for her service. I think she charges what traffic will bear. In your case, traffic was $24.95. Some people it's $1,200, some people it's $600. She was certainly not honest with me when she said that everybody gets the same fee who signs up at the same time. I do not believe her. I also don't believe that she followed through with her contract. I think that the statement she made to you that in December that she had somebody that would be perfect, but she couldn't come up with her fee, was designed to have you say, if she didn't say it right up front, I will pay the fee if you have somebody that's perfect. I think that that's dishonest. I also think that she did furnish you with some ladies' names, one of whom at least you have a nice friendship with, because I understand, at least from her mother, that she's fond of you, and as I said, she's crazy about your dog. So you're not entitled to your entire refund back, but you don't want the service anymore, you're entitled to most of it back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She figured I was blind and I was desperate and she could take me for a ride.
I only wish that the handicapped, when they want us not to blame for them or not to discriminate them for being handicapped, don't turn it around and make it look like we're the bad person when they do have a handicap, when we didn't cause them to be handicapped.
I guess I showed her I wasn't quite as dumb as she thought I was.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Brown versus Lipman, step forward, please.
44-year-old bar owner Thomas Brown is suing his ex-fiancée, 56-year-old pharmacist Leanne Lipman, for the return of a ring and for stolen property. Leanne claims Thomas was unfaithful.
Mr. Brown, how long were you engaged to Miss Lipman?
Just under 2 months.
Your complaint alleges a couple of things. That she stole some things from your apartment on the night that you broke up with her, that she refused to return the engagement ring, and that she destroyed some of your property by spilling perfume all over your apartment. And Miss Lipman says, no, 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 I did none of those things. So I was sort of interested in reading your complaint, sir. You were engaged to Miss Lipman for 2 months.
That's correct.
And prior to that, you had another girlfriend or another fiancée?
Yes.
And what was her name?
Patty.
And how long were you with Patty?
2 years.
When did you break up with Patty?
Probably July of 2002.
And when did you meet Miss Lipman?
August of 2002.
And when did you become engaged to Miss Lipman?
October 31st, 2002.
And on what date did you break up with Miss Lipman?
December 27th, 2002.
And you went back to Patty?
That's correct.
When had you started to see Patty again?
Approximately the last week of November.
Did you tell Miss Lipman?
No, I didn't.
Now, what happened on December 27th, 2002, Mr. Brown?
Well, on December 27th, I was with Patty, and Leanne was going to come and visit me.
But Miss Lipman didn't know that you were with Patty, is that right?
That's correct.
When you say you were with Patty, That was around holiday time.
That's correct.
Had you spent Christmas with her?
Yes.
With Patty?
Yes.
Not with Miss Lippman?
I spent Christmas morning with her.
So that you were really leading kind of a double life?
Yes, I was. I was trying to wait until after Christmas to break off with Leanne. I just did not want to ruin her holidays.
Did you get her a present for Christmas?
Yes, I did.
What did you buy for her?
I think it was a Green Bay Packer jersey, and she's a big Packer fan.
And what did she buy for you?
I believe she bought me a shirt and a sweater, which she ended up taking back.
Now tell me what happened on December 27th. Miss Lippman was coming to visit, and you were with Patty.
And I informed Leanne that I had started seeing Patty again, and she was in her car on the way to my place, and she went absolutely ballistic. I mean, she started screaming, going absolutely berserk. So I told Patty, I said that we should probably leave my place. And I decided to leave my place open, knowing Leanne was over 2 hours from home and probably would need some place to stay and probably would not be in shape to drive. So I left my place open, and that's when she decided to do all the damage.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Thomas Brown is suing his ex-fiancée, Leanne Lippman, for the return of a ring and for stolen property. Leanne claims Thomas was unfaithful.
What time did you arrive there, Miss Lippman?
Approximately 9 o'clock. I've got my cell phone bills to show when I was talking to him.
You got there about 9 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
And the door was open.
Mm-hmm. But it always was. He never
I understand
left.
the door was open. And when did you return to your apartment, Mr. Brown?
Saturday morning.
What time?
Approximately 8 o'clock.
Was Miss Lippman still there?
Yes, she was.
Tell me what the apartment looked like when you got there.
It didn't look bad at that point, and it did not smell bad at that point either.
Okay. So when you came home, looked normal?
Until I went into the drawers.
And what happened when you looked in the drawers?
Well, when I went in the drawers, I found some pictures that I had taken on cruise lines that were all torn up.
Can I see that, girl?
Like this. I got 3 different photos. And then also in the same drawer as these photos were these 2 ring boxes, which this one had a pair of diamond earrings in it.
What
and
was
they were
that for?
I had bought them for Patty, actually, and then I bought her a bigger pair, so I had these.
When did you buy those for Patty?
About a year earlier, Christmas the year before.
So, her you bought a jersey, and Patty you bought diamond earrings.
Well, that's correct.
Right. And you were still holding on to those earrings, is that right? For what reason?
For what reason?
Yeah.
Well, they were diamond earrings. You know, I couldn't take them back.
Okay. And what else was missing from the other box?
Well, this was the original engagement ring container, and in this was another gold band. That was the wedding band of the engagement ring.
That's not the original.
Just a minute, I'll get to you in a second. And what else?
Well, you know, she tried so much to destroy my life at that point. I own a restaurant in Wisconsin, and she went upstairs to the bar boasting of what she did to my apartment, destroying pictures and things like that.
Of course she ripped up the pictures, right, Miss Lippman?
Of course. And I don't think I ripped up all those, because I only ripped up colored ones, and I think one was black and white. And I ripped up the pictures of Tom and I also.
But you ripped up these. Of course you
Right.
did. Okay. So we got the destruction of the pictures, which you'll never be able to replace. Then we have the diamond earrings. Miss Lippman, did you take those?
No, I did not.
What about the wedding band?
No, I did not.
Miss Lippman, look at me. What about spilling perfume? Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Sure you did. I love it.
But I didn't get the perfume on the leather part of the jacket.
Listen to me. You did that on purpose? Sure. What did she destroy, Mr. Brown?
Well, she tried to destroy my relationship with Patty.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, well,
Grow up.
she called her family, telling her everything.
Grow up.
Okay.
That's your problem.
Yeah. And, well, she...
I mean,
well, she went into
what
my...
you destroyed in your apartment with the perfume.
She just made it so it was unbearable to smell for a couple days in there.
What do you want me to do about that?
Well, I had to spend the first night in a motel.
This wasn't the first time, was it?
No, it wasn't the first time.
Live with it. What's next?
Some of my clothing was missing.
Did you take any of his clothing?
The only thing I can figure out, I do have a Neil Diamond sweatshirt that I always wore when I was there, and I did find it in my laundry later.
He wants his Neil Diamond sweatshirt back. Give it to him. What else do you want?
I want the ring back, the engagement ring.
Where's the engagement ring?
Right here.
Give it to him. I don't want it. Give it to him. Perfect. Good. Now you have it back. What else?
She took my dishes.
Are you kidding me or what?
No, she took my dishes.
Is she suing you for the gas that it took her to get to your house to find out that you were with somebody else?
Not so far.
What's next? What's next?
Just she went to my computer address book and emailed all the people in there telling them what a rat I was.
You were?
I am.
What's next?
That's pretty much it outside.
Good, you got your ring back. Bye.
Okay.
Hard as I excuse, you may step out. It's number 434 on the calendar in the matter of Ayala versus Bianchi. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
How old are you, Miss Ayala?
I just turned 21.
And you?
19.
And you have a baby?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is your child?
2.5.
So you had this child when you were 17?
I was 16, turning 17.
And the father of this child is one Joey?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a boyfriend whose name just happens to be Joey?
Yes.
One and the same?
Yeah.
Where is Joey today?
He's not present.
Of course not. Miss Ayala, you claim that Miss Bianchi, in a little bit of a hissy fit, damaged your car by kicking it.
Yeah.
Miss Bianchi says while you had a fight, she may have hit you, but she certainly didn't kick your car.
No, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm serious. Where is Joey? I mean, is he working today? Is he?
He's watching my child, his son.
He's babysitting?
Yes, ma'am.
He managed to get time off from his job?
No, he doesn't work.
You want to tell me what happened, Miss Ayala?
Yeah, it all started when me and my boyfriend were driving in my car.
Your boyfriend Joey?
My boyfriend Joey were driving in my car. And then she started following us. And she wanted me to get out of my car, and I didn't want to step out of my car.
Well, you stopped your car?
Well, Joey was driving.
So Joey stopped the car?
Yeah, Joey stopped the car. We went to his grandma's house so his mom could come out and make her stop following us.
She followed you to the grandmother's house?
Yeah, and he honked for her to come out, and then that's when Lisa ran out of her car, kicked my car, and that's when I got out of my car. And then I was going to close my door, and that's when she kicked my car again, and that's when she tried to tackle me to the floor, and we just started fighting until his mom and him pulled her off of me.
Now I'll hear your version.
It was Thanksgiving morning. The whole reason why we were fighting, I had informed him that I was pregnant again, and we were in the process of supposedly working things out. So later on that night, my friend who was dating his cousin had called me and informed me that he was with her, Lorena, in front of his grandmother's house in her car. So I drove over there.
Why?
Just see what's going on. I told him I was pregnant, find out if he's with her. We were supposedly working things out. So I went, I found them there. She was sitting in her back seat of her car, putting on her shirt. He was sitting in her driver's seat, just with his tank top on. And I had asked her, I'm like, oh, so you guys just got done, you know, having sex.
Doing the nasty.
Yeah. And she's, yes, I asked her, I'm like, you guys just got done having sex? And, well, not in those words, but, and she's like, oh, yeah, we were. And he wasn't saying anything. He was sitting there. You know, he knew he was caught.
Because he's a moron.
Yeah, exactly. He knew he was caught.
He's a moron who doesn't have a 2-year-old child that's going to be around forever and isn't pregnant again.
Yes.
Right? You're that moron. He's
Yes.
the other moron.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Me and her had words. We were both sitting in our car. I was sitting in my driver's seat. We both got out of the car at the same time and went at each other. And we're fighting for about maybe 2-3 minutes until Joey came, pulled me off of her. His aunt and his mom were then holding me back. He was holding her back.
Let me see damage to the car.
And they weren't holding me back. Just when she let me go, I let her go.
Did you ever hear of birth control?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you use it?
Oh, I am now.
Very good. So you're making $35,000 a year. You have your own apartment. You have your own car. You have your baby taken care of. Your child is in school. You have a good job. You got your GED. You finished your education. What's the matter?
And you're married.
And you're yeah. Oh, please. That would be terrific. That would be frosting on the cake. Did you try to get out these dents? Is that what these little holes things are that you tried to get out the dents?
No, I didn't try to do anything. I haven't done anything. And I went to go get estimate.
Let's see the estimates.
The top one is the one where my Nissan dealer told me to go to, and that's the one I'm taking.
Top one is the cheapest one, $1,513. Is that right?
Yeah, that's where my Nissan dealer
Miss
told me to go.
Bianchi, let me tell you sometimes what temper does. When you have a temper, you have to pay for it. This didn't happen to her car from nothing.
I understand.
Now, I don't care if this happened to her car as a result of the two of you struggling with each other and falling into the car, although that's not what this looks like.
No,
this
we
looks
didn't,
like a
we
kick.
didn't even come in contact with her car.
That's not true. No, we didn't. You did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It wasn't my intention to go and fight her.
Well, why didn't you just wait until he got finished and
I
call
wanted
him on
to
the
catch
phone?
him. I wanted to catch him.
Well, you caught him.
Yeah, I caught him.
And later today,
The dog comes running through my yard with teeth and everything and starts fighting Prissy. Ripped her ear. There was blood every place.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lorena Ayala says the mother of her ex-boyfriend's child, Lisa Bianchi, vandalized her vehicle. Lisa says she caught the father of her child and Lorena having sex in a parked car.
Miss Bianchi, you were so furious that day, which is why when I read your answer and you said you found out after Joey had been at your house and had talked the day before about getting back together again, blah, 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 somebody calls you up and said, you know where Joey is? Joey's over at our house. You get in the car. Where'd you put your baby when you got into the car?
He was at home with my mother.
Your mother takes care of your baby?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Well, what were you doing at home with your mother?
I lived there.
Well, so you left your mother to take care of your baby?
I asked her if she can take care of him, yes.
So you could go out and take care of this problem?
No, it wasn't my intention to go and fight her. It was my intention to go there and find out what was he doing with her. If he was with her, then why is he, you know...
Well, why didn't you just wait until he got finished and call him on the phone?
I wanted to catch him, so...
Well, you caught him.
Yeah, I caught him.
You caught him?
Yeah.
And once you caught him, then your adrenaline started to rush. That you have to pay for, Miss Bianchi. Are you expecting this other baby?
No, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,513.73. Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's been with me. We're not together, but I'm always going to be there. We'll communicate. He's the father of my child.
I was in the back seat. He was driving in the front seat.
Why would she be in the back seat? She was putting on her clothes.
I'm not going to be with them no more.
Don't fight over a guy anymore. They're not worth it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Collins versus Solis. Step forward, please.
Account manager Alicia Collins is suing her neighbors, construction supervisor Ronald Solis and his wife Ray Lynn, for vet bills resulting from a dog attack. Ronald is countersuing for a false, dangerous dog charge.
Ms. Collins, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes.
And you have a dog, a little dog, and they have a little dog. It is your claim that their little dog came on your property, bit your dog, bit you, and when you picked up your dog, blood from your dog got on a sweater. You want the Solises to pay for the vet bills.
Yes, Your Honor.
You did not seek medical attention.
No, Your Honor.
And the cost of the sweater.
Yes, Your Honor.
Solises say that they should not be responsible. They didn't see this whole thing happen. They don't know what happened. And in addition, they are counterclaiming, they say, because you called animal control and they had to go through a whole process with regard to their dog, who was ultimately declared not a dangerous animal, and they want you to pay the expenses that they incurred going through this process. How long have you been neighbors?
I just bought the house in September of this past year.
And what kind of a dog do you have?
A Yorkshire Terrier. She's 4 pounds, 8 ounces.
And when did this incident occur with the Solises dog?
September 10th.
Shortly after you moved in?
Yes.
Were you at home?
Yes, ma'am.
What time of day?
It was approximately 6 o'clock p.m.
Okay, tell me what happened.
My son was out on his rollerblades, and...
Are you immediate neighbors? Do your properties abut each other?
I can see the side of his house from the front of my house.
Okay, so you're not immediate next door neighbors?
No, Your Honor.
So your son was outside on his rollerblades?
He was on his rollerblades, and we had our garage door open, and he had come to the door and he said that there was a stray dog outside. So when I opened my door going into the garage, there was a dog standing there. No collar, no anything.
Was it this dog?
His dog, which I did not know at the time, Your Honor.
Okay, but the dog was in your garage?
In my garage. So I told Sheldon he was playing with a friend several streets over, that he was going back over there. I closed our garage door and came in the house. And
where did the dog go?
Back out in the neighborhood. And so then it was probably about 45 minutes later, I was going around because I just got the house, so I was going around to put a new light bulb in on my front porch. So Prissy had never been out front yet, my little dog. So I put her on her lead, and I walked her around to the front porch, and I had the lead on my hand, and I was doing the light bulb. Well, here comes the dog again. And so it's on the sidewalk, and then Sheldon said, "Mom, I think that dog's a stray dog. It's going to get hit." By this time, the dog comes running through my yard, comes up and with teeth and everything, and starts fighting Prissy. And Prissy's 4 pounds 8 ounces. Ripped her ear. There was blood every place. It was all over her, all over the porch.
So this dog came up on your porch?
On my front porch.
Okay.
And I have a picture of my house, Your Honor, that shows that my front door is not like right there next to the sidewalk.
I'd like to see it, please.
The dog had to come quite a ways.
Okay.
So Prissy had to, she was bleeding profusely. Then I couldn't get it to stop, and it had torn. The tooth of the dog had torn her ear and had nipped my hand, because when the dog started attacking, my dog was on her lead. I immediately just,
Yanked her up.
yanked her by her lead. She's hanging. I've got her in my arms, and their dog kept jumping on me to get at Prissy, and ended up having its 2 teeth into my hand. I rushed Prissy in immediately into the house, yelled at the top of my lungs at this dog to get, just to get out of our yard and get away from us. I made my son come in. I ended up taking Prissy to the emergency animal clinic around the corner from our house, and they put her in emergency surgery. She stayed overnight. She ended up getting 3 stitches in her ear, which will never heal again because it was at the end of it, and it broke a blood vessel. That's where all the blood had come from that was everywhere. So,
what were the vet bills?
The night of the surgery was $397.28, and then for her follow-up, it was $28. And then she also had another follow-up, Your Honor, $43.73. And then after I had found out that their dog had not had its rabies shots, my dog had to go back to the vet, which was $68.37.
Now, what about the sweater?
And I also have the receipt for the sweater. It was a black silk sweater set that I had it was the second time I'd ever worn it. And of course it was ruined, and I just wanted my dog taken care of, the main thing.
Just give me the
okay.
cost of that's what we're here for. Give me the cost of the sweater set.
The sweater was $85.52.
$622.90. Is that right, Bird?
That's right.
Good. This thing broke. I think it needs a new battery. Oh, see, I just fixed it. Now I'll hear you.
First of all,
September 10th?
Yes, ma'am.
6 p.m.
Yes, ma'am. It was later than that. My wife called. I was going home from work, and she said.
Were you at home?
Pardon me?
Were you at home?
No, ma'am. My wife was. I was.
Good.
At my
So
work.
I don't want to hear from you yet.
She did not come to our house till the 12th.
I don't care what she came to your house. Were you at home on September 10th at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Where was your dog?
I thought she was in the backyard.
But she wasn't?
I don't remember.
Was she chained in the backyard? Is there a fence?
There is a fence, yes.
Has she gotten out of the fence? She's a digger.
Once before, yes.
Because Jack Russells are diggers.
Yes, ma'am.
So they make holes under the fence and scoot out.
Yes, ma'am.
I know a little bit about Jack Russells. Bought a house from somebody who raised Jack Russells. Spent a lot of time filling in the holes that they made. That's what Jack Russells do. They dig holes.
Yes.
So your dog's gotten out before.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you got out again. So you tell me why you believe that you are not responsible for all of these bills that the plaintiff had.
Well,
we're not even talking about the pain and suffering she had because she was bitten by your dog, or the emotional distress. We're not talking about that. I think that she would have been satisfied just taking care of the dog's medical bills.
Yes, Your Honor.
So why don't you tell me why you think that you're not responsible?
Well, when she first came to our house, she immediately stated that if we did not take care of it, that she was going to sue us and have our dog picked up. And I asked her, she'd have to talk to my husband because she was very irate and I didn't want to deal with her, so I told her she had to come home back when my husband was home.
Why? Aren't you a big girl? Can't you take care of this business yourself? What do you have to deal with him for? She came to you. She's a woman. You're a woman. She got bit. Her dog got bit. She had vet bills. What did you have to talk to your husband for? What is he? He's got a bigger brain than you do?
No.
I don't think he does.
No.
You don't, do you, sir? You're not smarter than your wife, are you?
In some instances, I think I am.
Really? Really? Just that answer suggests to me that that's not true. So why don't you tell me, Mr. Salas, why you think you're not responsible for these vet bills?
Because today is the first day she's seen our dog. She's not seen our dog before the alleged incident, nor since. Her proof is that she said that she talked to people, children that ride with her son on the school bus, and they said, yeah, there's a little white dog that lives at our house. And that's how she's going on the basis that it was our dog that attacked her dog. or
Excuse
had
me,
a
Your
dog
Honor.
fight with a
I
dog.
have his statement that we had to go to dangerous dog hearing before I could do in small claims. The statement that he submitted to the court September 30th, 2002, they went to each one of the neighbors, which, you know, it's like welcome to the neighborhood to me, and explained and told what happened. He states on here that neighbors puts their address that says that they saw his dog running from my yard after they heard the confrontation. So he's suing me for hearsay, but he also said it. And when we went to dangerous dog...
You want to respond to that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll hear you.
I did say that after we asked her to get witnesses.
Just a second. So you went to neighbors, and the neighbors said that they saw your dog leaving her house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
May I finish?
Uh-huh.
The neighbor said that her son was playing with my dog and coaxed my dog into going to their yard.
How could he coax your dog to go into their yard if your dog was behind your fence?
I'm going by what the neighbor said, I guess, because he was playing. How my dog got out, I don't know. He may have gotten the dog out. I don't know.
Mr. Salas, I've just made up my mind. We're going to let your wife finish talking. Your dog bit her. Your dog bit her dog. Your dog got out from the backyard. Your dog has gotten out of the backyard before. You are responsible for keeping your dog penned in. If your dog digs holes in order to get out of your fenced backyard, then you have to keep your dog in the house. Or you have to keep your dog tethered on a wide enough lead so that your dog has the run of the backyard but can't leave. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's it. End of discussion. You're responsible for all of these bills. So we've made an interesting case out of your case. However, he has a counterclaim, which is equally as ridiculous, which I'm sure your wife would never have filed. Because, Mr. Salas, you want her to pay for all of the expenses that you incurred when she reported your dog as a dangerous dog, and you had to go to hearings, and you had to get muzzle for your dog, and you had to get restraints in your house, all of those things, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
We had the restraints already.
Then what do you think that she ought to pay for?
All the inconvenience we've incurred because
You
of
should
this.
be inconvenienced.
What about my inconvenience?
You should be inconvenienced. A lot. Your dog had a history of getting out of your fenced backyard, according to your wife, who knows how to tell the truth. And if that's the case, you should have seen to it, and your wife should have seen to it, that this dog was not placed in a position where the dog could get out and cause any injury to any other person or any other animal or people's property. You didn't do that. So if you were inconvenienced, that's what's supposed to happen to people who don't take care of their responsibilities. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $622.90. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Down, this is case number 142 in the matter of Bevilacqua versus Bonnet, and case number 143 in the matter of Kaiser versus Bonnet. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Perhaps we can finally put this unfortunate incident to rest. According to what I read, you were crossing the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And you allege that the defendant came into an intersection she shouldn't have been and hit you with her car.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't severely injure you with her car. You jumped back. She hit you on your knee. Something. Where?
Right. Brushed me about here.
She brushed you. But you weren't hurt.
No, ma'am.
But you were angry. And then an interaction took place between the two of you that was most unfortunate on both of your parts, which resulted in you being arrested.
No, I was never arrested.
Taken into custody at some point, charged with an assault.
Charged, yes.
with an assault. All right.
Strong arm robbery.
Charged with something.
Okay.
And those charges were eventually dropped by the district attorney's office. But am I correct in reading between the lines in your complaint, sir, that there is a restraining order preventing you from going near the defendant?
Well, it's not a restraining order.
What is it?
I'm supposed to stay away from her, which is...
Is it an order for you to stay away from her?
It's not an official restraining order, no.
It is not.
No.
I mean, it's not written anywhere.
No.
The judge just told you to stay away from her.
Oh, no, it's stay away. It's not... Okay. I'm supposed to stay away from her until January 25th of 2002.
Where is that written?
I have it, Your Honor.
May I see it, please?
Those are the trial transcripts, Your Honor.
I'm just looking at the order because he's not sure it was an order. So after this case is over, Mr. Bevilacqua, you are directed to attend 3 hours of anger management classes by the 15th of March of 2001 and stay away from the victim.
Yes.
That was the order, signed by a judge.
Right.
Right. I mean, did you think I was just a fake person here that they picked out of, that they picked out of a supermarket? Didn't you think that I had any legal experience at all, sir?
Of course.
All right. So, Mr. Bevilacqua, what you want is all kinds of damages from the defendant because you were put through a court process, you were embarrassed, whatever. You want damages in the amount of $5,000. The defendant is cross-claiming. She says that you did, in fact, assault her, and she is counterclaiming for the exact same amount, $5,000. So we've reached a point where you were brushed by defendant's car. Pick it up from there, Mr. Bevilacqua.
Okay, I fell back, I yelled, yo. I looked up to see the driver of the car flash her middle finger at me and take off.
Okay.
Continued walking home, got up the street, and saw a car that looked just like the one that had just sideswiped me, frantically trying to get into this parking spot. And I just went up and said, excuse me, was that you who just turned on to 3rd off of Rose? And she said, yes. And then I said, well, you just sideswiped me with your car. And she said, own exact words?
Of course.
Super. She said, you, I don't care, I'm tired, I just came from the airport. And then I said, no, wrong answer. Okay, you ask me if I'm okay, you tell me that you're sorry, and then I go. And then she exploded.
What do you mean she exploded?
She screamed, don't you tell me what to do, you stupid, and swung her fist at me.
Did she hit you?
Blocked it.
And what did you do?
That was it. Walked, I said, told her she was crazy and she should watch it or she's going to kill somebody, and I walked away.
And then what happened?
I got about 10 feet away and boom, got it from behind. Turned around and it was her screaming. Screaming threats, screaming, obscenities, everything. And waving her sunglasses at me. There was a little scratch in her sunglasses that had fallen out of her hand.
How did they fall out of her hand?
Because they were in her hand when she hit me, along with her keys.
Did she ever ask you for your name? During that period of time, she was asking you for your name.
She may have, but you know what?
Okay.
She was crazy.
That's not what I asked.
I'm sorry. Yes, she probably
Don't be a
did.
wise guy in here, sir.
I'm sorry,
There's only
ma'am.
one wise person in here.
Yes, ma'am.
That's Bird.
So I couldn't go home because she was following me. She followed, so I just was walking around. She followed me for almost an hour, screaming. And at one point, we were near my apartment, and I wanted her to go away. I turned and tried to reason with her. And I said, listen, your road rage, your whatever drugs are on, are making you completely insane. Please leave me alone. And she screamed no, that I had to give her $200 and some for her sunglasses. And I said, I didn't break your sunglasses. I'm not paying for them. And then she said, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to tell the police you assaulted me, and they'll make you pay. And then I came to the store at the corner of 5th and Rose. And my girlfriend, Tamara, comes walking out of the store because she had been there, like buying something. And Tamara sees this going on, comes over and goes, oh, my God, are you okay? And she goes after Tamara. She starts screaming threats and obscenities at Tam, starting with, do you know? She's going to have Tamara thrown in jail. Goes over behind the car, screaming, you're not going anywhere, you blah, 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 I'm going to track you down, blah. So she's blocking the exit. I went up to her from the side and said exactly, hey, lady, yo, I'm leaving. Got about 15 feet away, and then boom, got it again, turned to Tamara and screamed, go, get out of here, I'll deal with her, go. So I let her scream at me for another few minutes, and then take off. Cut through the alley, go to a friend's place.
Okay. Apparently, you got her license plate number.
That's correct.
And through that, you got his name.
That's correct.
Okay. Police contacted you. What out-of-pocket expenses did you have as a result of this incident, sir?
$12,500.
For what?
Legal fees.
You have a bill for that?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay. And I'd like to see that. Then I have a couple of pointed questions because I let you tell your story.
Here you go, thanks.
I see the checks made payable directly to the lawyer. Mr. Bevilacqua,
Yes.
I read your complaint very carefully, and what I want to know first is, you saw her park her car, and you had a conversation with her, and clearly you could see that you weren't getting anywhere. Why didn't you, before this thing escalated, just go over to her car and take down her license plate number? Go over to a phone booth, take out your cell phone, call the police, and say, license plate number so-and-so just hit me and took off. I was a pedestrian. Wouldn't that have been the smart thing to do, sir?
Yes, it was, and I regret it now.
That would have been the smart thing to do.
May I explain?
No, that would have
Okay.
been the smart thing to do.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
explanation would be stupid.
Okay.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Bevilacqua says he was falsely arrested for assault because Ann Bonnet lied to police. Stephen claims it all started when Ann nearly ran him over.
Now, why don't you tell me, you're going through the intersection and you were in the intersection at that point illegally?
I made a right-hand turn from a busy street onto a residential street. While I was going through the crosswalk, I saw a gentleman step off the far side of the crosswalk. I continued down the road and then heard this screaming and looked in my rearview mirror, and I saw a gentleman screaming at me and giving me the finger.
That was this gentleman?
Yes.
Now, I want to know, first, do you have any of the police reports?
I do.
I'd like to see them all, please.
It's the LAPD.
Where had you been coming from, Dr. Bonnet?
Coming from the airport.
Where had you been?
San Francisco.
For how long?
For 4 days, sir. Ma'am.
What were you doing there?
I was taking an exam.
How many days was the exam?
It was a 3-hour exam on Sunday, the day of the incident.
So it was a pretty stressful day.
It was.
Okay, continue.
So I went through the intersection and heard the screaming, looked behind,
Saw him. You didn't know you would hit him. Go
I
ahead.
had not hit him, Your Honor.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe that you probably brushed him. You didn't hurt him, but you didn't stop your car.
No,
now,
I didn't
keep
stop
going.
my car.
Keep going.
I also held up my right middle finger in the rearview mirror. I continued up and over a hill, another 1,000 feet, to my residence and parked on the right-hand side of the street. I was getting my stuff out of the car when a man came, who I did not recognize, came running up to me and said, "Did you just turn onto this street?" I said, "Yes." He started swearing at me at that point and said, "You are the so-and-so who almost hit me. Do you realize that? And then you gave me the finger." And I said, "You gave me the finger first." At which point he became enraged, lunged at me with his right hand, scratched my right face, took my glasses, threw them on the ground, and they broke. The glasses are here, and I have photographs as well.
Well, I'd like to see the photographs, and could you please indicate in this police report where it indicates that you were injured? Take a look at these police reports and show me where it indicates you were
I have
injured.
a photo of the injury, ma'am.
I don't want to see the photo. Well, I'll look at the photos of the injury. I want to see in the police reports, because they're voluminous, where police always indicate what the marks are that they've seen, what was the complaint. I want to see whether police officers noted any injuries to you.
Here at the bottom, it says she took pictures of the scratch to my face.
Let me see.
Last paragraph.
Now, I want to see where the officer wrote down on a report. You see, on the first page of this report, he writes down type of property taken, receipt, nature of the injury, none, according to the police officer. Nature of injury, none. Why?
I wanted to find out if you wanted to take notice. They took the picture.
Yeah, they noticed nothing. Neither do I. I noticed what looks like a pimple on your forehead.
I was lucky it was a small scratch.
I said I noticed what it looks like a pimple on your forehead. I'm very smart. I don't think his body came into contact with your forehead, madam. I believe that he might have knocked the sunglasses off of your face. Maybe he did that, and maybe the sunglasses were in your hand, as he says, and they fell to the ground, or he knocked them to the ground. I believe that that's possible, too. But I don't believe that he ever put his hands on you. Anybody who would believe that, looking at this picture of this pimple, is a fool. Go ahead. Keep going.
I picked up the sunglasses, and I said, "You just broke my sunglasses. You can't do that." He said, "Yes, I can. This is road rage. I can do anything I want to you."
Fine. At that point, Dr. Bonnet, what would a smart, intelligent, educated person do?
I
would go home.
He knew where I lived, ma'am. He was at my house. I was afraid of him.
So you follow him in the street? That's what you did. You followed him in the street.
That's correct.
And after you followed him in the street, he says you were yelling obscenities at him. Subsequently to that, you accused him of a strong-armed robbery. That's what the police report says.
That's correct.
Well, that was a lie.
That
was a lie.
It's not a lie, Your Honor.
Sure it is. Just like it would be a lie if he said, "I'm filing a report, assault with a deadly weapon." Your car. Car's a deadly weapon. You were where you shouldn't have been. There was a four-way stop sign. He's a pedestrian. He had the right of way. Yes, there was a four-way stop sign. That's what it says right here. If he's out in the street, you have no business moving. So you touched him. That's assault with a deadly weapon. Would that have been overkill, Dr. Bonnet?
That would have been, since it didn't happen.
That would have been overkill if he reported that. Clearly, he wasn't injured. He got up, he walked, he wasn't injured. But he expected somebody to stop and say, I'm sorry, forgive me, I didn't realize that I hit you. Are you okay? Instead, you're stressed. According to the police reports, you've gotten 3 hours sleep for the last 5 days because you were studying for these exams. You come home to the airport, they lost your luggage. It was a long day. It was a miserable day. And you acted inappropriately, especially when you filed a complaint against not only him, stand up, but her.
Your Honor, I did not file a
Oh,
complaint.
yes, you did. When you report to the police a strong-armed robbery and that she's driving the car because you wanted to be able to get his name, and the police go to her house and intimidate her and walk in with handcuffs and tell her that there's complaint of a strong-armed robbery and she's driving the getaway car all over your lousy pair of sunglasses?
The robbery was not the sunglasses, Your Honor. He took a piece of paper from me. That was what the police...
Because you were acting like a nut!
I was not.
You were acting like a nut! Maybe you were stressed, maybe you were tired, but you were acting like a nut. Any smart woman, if they're faced with somebody who is acting inappropriately, and you think he's acting inappropriately, I don't necessarily think so. You could have killed him in your state of stress, and you just kept going. And aside from that, you flipped him off. I would have been infuriated too, but you're a woman, and slightly more vulnerable. So if he comes up to you, and if he's furious, and he knocks your sunglasses to the ground, you take your sunglasses and you say, forget it. How many blocks did you follow him?
He followed...
How many blocks did you follow him?
2. May I tell the rest of my story?
Sure. Because then you're trying to get her license plate. You have the piece of paper in your hand. I read the reports, right? He comes up to you and grabs the piece of paper out of your hand. Is that right?
That's
so
correct.
far, right? I wouldn't want a nut like you to know where my girlfriend lived either. You were acting like a nut. And then you report that as a strong-arm robbery with her driving the getaway car?
The police decided that that was a strong-arm robbery, the keeping of the paper, which he later returned to the police. He had it in his possession.
I find that you're responsible for his legal fees. And the most I can give him is $5,000, which is exactly what I'm giving him, and I am dismissing your counterclaim. You acted inappropriately on that day, and you should have apologized from the very beginning. Case over. Your counterclaim is dismissed, and I'm awarding him $5,000. Now, you sit down.
Thank you.
I want you to describe to me, Miss Kaiser.
Yes.
I want you to describe to me, after this whole incident is over, you go home. Your boyfriend tells you take off. The nut is following you, right? She's got your license plate number. How would you receive this first alert from the police?
3 policemen showed up at my door, banged on it, and let me know that if I didn't open the door immediately, that they were going to come in.
What did they say?
They came in and actually started asking me questions about my car. I didn't really know what they were getting at, and they considered me to be evasive, and started telling me that if I didn't tell them what they wanted to know, they were going to arrest me on the spot. And since it was a Sunday, I wouldn't be able to contact a lawyer, I wouldn't be able to be bailed out or arraigned, and I would have to spend the night in jail.
What do they want to know? They want to know his name.
They wanted to know who was driving my car. They basically were backing into asking me his name, and I honestly didn't know what they wanted at the beginning. When they did, I told them, actually fairly early in the conversation, but once it started getting this detailed, that I would much prefer to speak to them after I spoke to an attorney. And once again, we were back to, you're going into prison now, put your hands out, we've got cuffs.
So how long did they stay in your house?
About 2.5 hours. They kept me in my house. After the hour of questioning, I had to wait an hour and a half until she came down, looked at my car, identified it, and left.
So the next day it was over?
Actually, it was over in terms of my experiences with the police, and that was frightening, but it was not over in that both the police that we talked to and the Santa Monica City Attorney's Office were still considering pressing charges against me.
As being a co-conspirator in a strong-armed robbery?
The driver of the getaway car in a strong-arm robbery.
You see how ridiculous things got?
I never accused her of anything, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the case of Kaiser v. Bonnet in the amount of $2,500.
Fair enough.
Step up. Yes. A couple of things to say. Could you have behaved better that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Certainly did nothing criminal that day. I find that based upon what little I've heard and from looking at these photographs and listening to the story, you did nothing criminal that day. Certainly nothing that would have required you to spend $12,500 for a lawyer. I find, however, that despite the fact that he could have behaved differently that day, I'm merely taking down your license plate, you were the precipitating factor in all of this trouble because stressed out as you may be, you didn't have the right of way, you brushed him with your car, he doesn't look like a nut to me that he would follow you if you hadn't even tapped him with your car. See, all he was looking for was an apology. but you kept going and were rude besides. You precipitated it. You pay. That's all.
Parties versus Buttram. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
I don't want anybody to make me shout today because I have a sore throat. Okay?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez, the defendant is your cousin.
Yes, ma'am, she is.
According to your complaint, there was a time she moved into your apartment, took over a lease of a roommate of yours. She moved out in rather unpleasant circumstances because there was some altercation involving a daughter of hers.
Yes.
And you.
Yes.
You claim that when she moved out, she owed you for rent. She owes you utilities, according to you?
Yes, ma'am, she does.
For 2 months?
She owes June's rent, which was a bad check. She owes September's rent that she did never paid.
How much was the rent?
The rent was $1,000. She paid $500. I paid $500.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about this bounce check in June, because up until June you had paid the rent.
I bounced a check with the landlord in June, and he never got back to me until after I'd moved out that it had bounced. I knew it had bounced, but I was waiting for him to make what he wanted to be done with it.
So that you owe her the money for June?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Good. See, you make things easy. I'm so happy that you're not aggravating me. $500 you owe. Now, what about September's rent? When did you move out in September?
I moved out the first week in September.
Is that right?
She moved out August 29th at approximately 12 o'clock at night.
And you want her to pay September's rent?
Yes.
Why?
Because on the lease that she has signed, it says that she was there until October the 1st of 2002.
Well, that's an interesting issue because there was an incident involving her daughter.
Right.
Because she has a counterclaim for assaulting her daughter.
Right.
So I want you to tell me what happened, your version of what happened the end of August.
At the end of August, her daughter was very out of control. She was not taking responsibilities in the house. I was picking up after I was telling her that she had to flush the toilet, pick up her clothes, pick up after herself. Her daughter was smoking in the house at 12 years old. I told her mom and I told her daughter, I do not allow this and I will not allow this. So Amanda said she was getting ready and she was all dressed in black. She had black lipstick on, black mascara. I said, you look like a devil's child. So I grabbed her by the back of the neck. Come here, Chantal. I grabbed Amanda by the back of the neck just like this. I said, you will not be in this house unless there's an adult in here. I pushed her out and I went to work. I shut the door behind me and that's what I had done.
And that's when you left. Ms. Rodriguez, you cannot expect the defendant to stay in your home when you've thrown her daughter out of your home. Do you understand? Her daughter's 12 years old.
I didn't throw her out. I told her that she was not allowed in there because she was smoking in the house because my house would have burnt down.
Is there anything in your lease that says that she can't smoke?
Yes,
in your
it
house?
does.
Let me see. Okay. Did anyone else smoke in the house other than her daughter?
Stacy smoked, but she smoked outside of the house, so no.
Now, go ahead.
On this piece of paper right here, when we moved out, you give 30-day notice, they give you a letter. Well, in the letter where her daughter Amanda was in the small bedroom, there is smoke damage to the windowsill in the house and on the floor in the bedroom.
But that's not why you threw her out on that day at the end of August. You threw her out because she was wearing black lipstick, a black
No,
outfit.
I threw her out because she got very verbally with me, and she wasn't...
She's not responsible for September's rent, madam. You threw her daughter out of the house. She can't be expected to remain in the house while her daughter's out of the house. The only other thing we have to address are the utility bills. What was your arrangement with her with regard to
The
utilities?
utilities were to pay half of everything.
Okay, what about the utility bills?
I paid utilities up until, I think it was May, when we both bought cars. And we decided to get insurance together because it would be cheaper. And they were going to take it directly out of my checking account because Mary Beth did not have a checking account.
Mary Beth, pay attention, don't play with your papers. She's telling me why she didn't pay the utilities after May.
When they were supposed to take $320 out of my account for our insurance, and they ended up taking $520 out. She said, just pay it, and I will take it out of your payment for the utilities.
Does that sound familiar?
I told her for May's, not to worry about May's, that I would pay May's utilities, and I did. Stacy only paid me $200. She owes me $718. This is the cable bill, the public service bill, the phone bill, and
Does
the
that
water
include
bill.
September?
Yes.
Well, take September off.
Okay.
Take May off.
Okay.
Right?
$534.37.
How much were the utilities a month, madam?
Utilities ran between $30 to $50 for the water bill, $70 to $100 for the phone bill, and between $100 to $50
So
for
is what
public
you're
service.
doing when you come up with $534 taking the high end or the low end?
The high end.
Okay. Now I want you to tell me about your counterclaim.
Well, when she threw my daughter out of the house, she physically threw her out of the house. I have a picture of the marks that she left on my daughter.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Amanda Bishop,
How old are you, Amanda?
12, gonna be 13 in 7 days.
Tell me how you do in school, Amanda.
Lately, I've been getting lower grades because I haven't been working that hard.
Miss Beltram, are you satisfied with your daughter's performance?
She's a little lazy at school lately, but for the most part,
What about her friends, Miss Beltram?
she has no friends.
Really? Why not?
She's just at that stage in her life where she's exploring, she's become a teenager and she's...
What about her smoking, Miss Beltram?
She was smoking in the house, and when I found out she was smoking in the house, I dealt with it.
What about smoking at all when she's 12 years old?
Well, I don't like her to smoke, but I'm not with her 24 hours a day. There's no way I can completely stop her.
Is this your only child?
No, I have a 22-month-old baby, too.
Other than smoking, do you take anything else, Amanda? Ever experiment with any drugs, Amanda? What kind of friends do you have?
I used to have a friend named Emily. She had a mohawk, and Mary Beth didn't like her. I don't have her anymore. I have Brittany, and that's about it.
You feel as if, Amanda, that you could benefit with some counseling?
Maybe.
Did you ever talk to your mother about that?
We went to counseling. It was for me and her because we were not getting along well, but we got that taken care of. We have...
Yeah, but now you're not doing so well.
I'm working on it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Her daughter had ran away. Stacy literally had taken her daughter and literally threw this little girl on the floor.
And later today,
Maybe he's not as smart as all your other friends. When he pays
Mark's very
$220
smart,
for 4 tickets, he thinks that he's going to at least get to hear a song, right? And he got to hear nothing.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mary Beth Rodriguez says her cousin, Stacy Buttram, owes for rent, utility bills, and for the return of her daughter's videos. Stacy says Mary Beth physically threw her daughter out of the house.
I'm talking about the other little things that may be bothering you. Who are you working that out with?
My grandma. I talk to my grandma a lot. We're really close.
She live close by?
Mm-hmm. In walking distance.
So you go over there and talk to her?
Almost every day.
Good. That's a good anchor. You help your mom take care of the baby?
Mm-hmm. Change diapers, baby baths, that kind of stuff.
Your mom says no.
Sometimes, not 24/7.
Your mom approve of the way you dress?
I don't dress.
It's only clothes. She's a teenager. She's going to go through this stage. It's the stage.
No, she's not a teenager.
Well, she'll be
She's
a
not a
teenager.
teenager. She's 12. 12 is not a teenager.
She'll be a teenager in 7 days.
But 6 months ago, she was 12.
Yeah, well, she's just going through a stage.
I want to tell you something, Miss Beltram. It's easy to be a friend to your kids and much harder to be a parent.
Well, I try to be both.
If you have to make a choice, choose parent, because you can have a lot of friends, but somebody has to give her the right direction. Somebody has to say, these are the rules. While you live under my roof, I own the air that you breathe.
That's exactly
You
what I
will
tell her
do the
too.
following. This is what you will do. When you get old enough and you can live on your own, you can go and do that, and then you will own your space. Up until that time, I own the air that you breathe. I work, I bring in the food, I bring in the electricity, I pay the rent, I do whatever else is necessary, and you have certain responsibilities. But also, if your daughter is having some difficulty, then what you're supposed to do is explore the whys. I'm glad she has her grandmother that she can talk to. If that's good enough, that's fine. If it's not, I suggest that you get somebody else that she can talk
She's a
to.
really good school counselor, too. She talks to a lot.
Okay. Did your cousin hurt you when she put you out the door?
She dug her nails into my arm, and she squeezed really hard on the back of my neck.
Yeah, well, she has no right to put her hands on you. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So, you have no right to put your hands on her, and there has to be, yes.
What happened was, she came into the house, and she was just going to grab something and then go back. And I was on the phone with my mom, and she looked at me and she said that I looked like a demon child, and she asked me if I looked in the mirror that I was ugly, and I told her, I said, "You're ugly, bleach blonde," and she said, "That's it," and that's when she threw me out of the house.
She has no right to put her hands on you, and she did. You understand that? The judgment would be for you for $900. That is $400 for the utilities and $500 for June's rent. But I'm going to award you something on your counterclaim because it is unacceptable for somebody to put their hands on another person's child.
Except for, when we lived together, she literally, her daughter had ran away. When her daughter came back, Stacy literally had taken her daughter and literally threw this little girl on the floor.
Just she's allowed to do that. Well, she's not allowed to do that. That's not the right thing to do. But she's her mother. You're not. A stranger cannot put their hands on somebody else's child. Because when you walked out of the house and slammed the door, because you were going out and her mother wasn't home, you made no provisions for her.
But her mother knew at the time, her mother knew that me and Amanda weren't getting along, so she was taking her daughter to her mom's house. Because she said that to not have us as a conflict, she'd rather have Amanda not there with us.
You have no right to put your hands on somebody else's child. Period. Okay. So on your counterclaim, I'm awarding you $350, which means that you still owe her $550. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She physically tried to have her dog attack me.
I don't want her near my child. My child's terrified of her.
We're done. I don't even associate with her, and I will never associate with her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mason versus DeRose. Step forward, please.
17-year-old pharmacy technician Mark Mason is suing former schoolmate, 18-year-old Michael DeRose, for selling him phony tickets to an Aerosmith concert.
Mr. Mason, it is your claim that the defendant sold you some tickets. They were concert tickets, but they were tickets that permitted you to go backstage.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you paid how much for those tickets?
The total ticket cost for 4 tickets was $220.
And according to you, Mr. Mason, when you got to the concert, you couldn't go backstage with those tickets. Somebody told you that they were bogus. Is that right?
That's correct.
Mr. DeRose says he never sold you real backstage tickets. They were laminated memorabilia tickets.
Novelties, yes.
Novelties. And he told you that.
Yes, and they were not tickets, Your Honor.
They were just backstage passes?
They were laminated passes, yes.
So these passes that he sold you did not enable you to go into the concert. Is that right?
Well, when we talked to Michael about it, he informed us that, first of all, he did tell us that they were real tickets.
Just a second.
Sure.
Could you answer my question?
I'm sorry.
Were these just to permit you to go backstage, or did they permit you to get into the concert as well?
They were all access passes, so you're allowed to go anywhere on the grounds, including into the concert.
Okay. For 4 people, $220?
Yes.
Now, what concert was this?
It was an Aerosmith concert that was to take place at the Connecticut Meadow Centers in Hartford on September 5th.
And how did you know the defendant?
I went to school with him last year. I had a couple classes with him. And
how did you know he was selling these tickets?
He had sold them previously to people, and it was just sort of known that he said he had a connection at the Meadows Theater, and he could get backstage passes to concerts.
Do you have those tickets with you?
No, when we got to the concert grounds, all 4 tickets were confiscated at the gate.
Did you get to see the concert at all?
No, we were escorted off the grounds.
Now, gave $220 in cash?
Yes.
You don't deny that you got $220 in cash?
Oh, yes, I do deny that. I actually
How much
have
did you
receipts
get?
here, if you'd like to.
How much did you get?
I got around $40 at the most. They were $5 each ticket without the name on it, and $7 with, plus the shipping and handling.
Let me hear you, sir.
When we originally approached him, he said that the tickets were $50 each without names on them and $60 each with names, and he did not charge us shipping and handling.
You got them from him directly, hand to hand?
Yes, that's correct. He delivered them to my place of employment, which is a pharmacy that I work at with Lisa over there.
Mr. DeRose, I believe him. So let's move on from there.
Your Honor,
okay? I believe him.
I have documents here.
Oh, let me see.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Let me see what documents you have, sir.
There you go. Marcus and I were both in Cisco Laboratories, and...
Just a minute.
Okay. The top copy is the receipts that I paid for through PayPal.
Just a minute.
Okay.
I wish I understood this PayPal. Can you explain it to me, Bird?
PayPal is basically it's just an online ordering system. You drop money in your bank account or credit card, and it goes directly right through there to the person's email, and it gets dropped into their bank account right away. So
What
it's
he said.
instantaneous.
What he said.
There you go.
What he said. Whatever happened to you have a checkbook in a little...
Your Honor, that takes time. This is instantaneous. Sorry.
What happened to those checkbooks? You know, you write a check and then you write something on top and you say check number 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's basically an online
Right.
check. Sorry.
We're talking here.
I don't want to interrupt.
Is that what you use? Those checks thing?
Yeah, I still use checks for the
Yeah,
most
I
part.
still use checks. Would you show this to Mr. Mason, please? Because I don't understand it, but maybe he does. And I want you to take a look at that, Mr. Mason.
All
That's
that
a
is
thing.
the-
Shh.
Sorry, Your Honor.
That's a thing from PayPal. What do you have to say about that?
All that is the way.
I didn't.
Okay.
I am actually not involved in PayPal, so I couldn't tell you what this is. I mean, he may have gotten the tickets through this, but
But that's not your. You
that
didn't
is
have
not
anything to
my
do with
receipt,
that.
No.
That's not your receipt.
No.
You don't know anything about that.
Nope.
You don't use PayPal.
No.
Your Honor, that's how I purchased the tickets.
I don't care. You purchased the tickets. Who
Well,
cares about how you purchased the
That's
tickets?
how he got them.
What difference does it make how you purchased the tickets? No, the prices are on there where you paid for the tickets,
Yes.
not what you charged him for the tickets.
Well, also you have the eBay listing for the passes.
What difference does that make?
On there it says these items are novelties. And
What?
Mark,
Let me ask you, what difference does that make?
Your Honor, as I was stating before, Marcus and I were in the same classroom, and we were always on the computer playing video games.
Oh, get lost. Listen to me. He says he paid $220 for the tickets, and I believe him. I still believe him after you show me this stuff, that he paid $220 for the tickets. They were 4 tickets. He was supposed to go to a concert. He got to the concert. They confiscated his 4 tickets because they said they were bogus.
No, they were passes. They were not tickets. That was clearly stated, and everyone that Marcus talked to that actually got into backstage concerts with them knew that they needed tickets.
I don't care what anybody else knows.
He never
Old
had
Marcus
tickets.
over here, maybe he's not as smart as all your other friends. When he pays
Mark's
$220
very smart, actually.
for 4 tickets, he thinks that he's going to at least get to hear a song. Right? And he got to hear nothing.
Your Honor,
Judgment
he
for the
never-
plaintiff
he
and the
never
amount of...
Of Wright, Parker versus Van Tine. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Parker, the defendant had been a friend of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, on the 17th of August, you asked her to watch your dog, small dog, Pomeranian.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the 20th of August, you contacted her to get the dog back, and she refused to give the dog back to you. And she has
Yes,
not given the dog back to you to this date. Is
Right.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
The defendant has a counterclaim. He says because the dog has been with her now for 81 days, she wants to be paid for boarding the dog. And the second defense that she has is that she actually purchased the dog for $1 from your estranged husband. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Shh. Okay. Tell me the circumstances of the defendant coming into possession of the dog on the 17th of August.
I was having some problems at home with my stepchildren that I've raised for 10 years. My husband was an over-the-road truck driver. And I got very upset, and I called him, and I asked him to please come home and help me straighten it out. So he said that he would do that. He was going to deliver the load he had, and he would come home. About an hour later, my stepdaughter informed me that she was leaving. She wasn't going to take this anymore, whatever this was. And she was leaving and had someplace she and her brother could go. So I was very upset, and I just said, well, you know, Danielle, I can't take this anymore. You've been threatening to leave for a year. I said, the door's not locked. If you need to leave, then leave. And so they did. So I spoke with my husband several times during the week. Apparently, he had spoken with Danielle. She had called him on his cell phone and told him...
That's his daughter?
Yes. That she would tell him where they were if he promised not to tell me. So he made that promise to her. And when he informed me of this, I said, you shouldn't have done that because I'm here and I'm in charge of them and I should know where they are. Well, a week went by. He called me on the 16th at noon and said he'd be in on the 17th. We'd get the kids home, we'd get it all straightened out, and everything would be fine. When the 17th came, he was going to call me to come pick him up because he can't park his truck where we live. So he didn't call, and he didn't come home. And by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I got really concerned. I thought he was in an accident. So I called his dispatcher, who told me he was in the area, but he couldn't tell me where he was because my husband had told him not to. So that night, I got very, very depressed. And I had talked to Miss Van Tyne through the week, and she knew what I was going through. And the children were at her house, but she never said anything to me about it. As a matter of fact...
She a friend of the family?
She was my friend. I had lived across the street from her for almost a year.
Okay, so now we're at the 17th of August, and
Yeah.
you don't know that the children are at her house?
No, because she had told my daughter the next time that she was fed up with me to just leave the house and
That
call.
is not true. Whatever. Let's get to the dog.
All right. She had watched my dog twice in the past for me. And she always told me, you know, she's no problem. Anytime you need me to watch her, just bring her down. It's no problem. I never had a problem getting her back or anything.
Okay, so
We
what
were like-
happened on the 17th?
I called her at 7 o'clock at night, and she said to me, I have a date with this, I don't know, some doctor that had called her and wanted her to go out on a date, so I won't be here. She says, just drop her over the fence, she'll know enough where to go.
That's not true. I'll get to you in a minute.
And I said, okay, fine. So about 8:30 I got there, I went in the backyard, and I put Tiffany through the doggy door. So I left and went home. The next morning, I was a little bit better emotionally, and I really missed Tiffany, so I called her house and left a message to call me. Well, she never called Saturday. I did the same thing on Sunday, and she didn't return my call. And Monday, I went to the cell phone company, found out my husband had been talking to Debbie through the week on the cell phone, so I knew then where him and the kids were. So I went to Debbie's to get the dog, and nobody was home.
Okay. Now, how old is this dog?
She just turned 7.
When did you get her?
I got her in October of '94.
How long have you been married?
3 years.
So you had the dog previous to your being
4
married?
years before I got married.
Okay. I'll hear you now.
Okay. First of all, the children called me very distressed. I had never met her estranged husband, Dean, up until the children had been with me for a week. And the only reason that I did befriend this woman was because of the things that I had seen going on with the children.
Okay.
And so,
let me
nevertheless,
let me get by that for a moment. The children came to your house, and you made an arrangement with her husband to keep the children at your house. I'm putting 2 and 2 together until he got back.
Right.
He came back sometime around the 17th of August. Did he stay in your home with the children?
He did he rented a room from me until they got an apartment.
When did they move out?
I guess they stayed about 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
Now, I did tell her that I could not watch this dog. She
No, you
called
did
me,
not.
and I told her...
Don't interrupt her.
When she called me, I did not want to watch the dog because of what was going on domestically with these children.
Okay.
I didn't want her having any contact with them or to risk their safety again. So I did tell her I couldn't watch the dog. She then, and my neighbor did witness her throw the dog over my fence. She didn't put
It
her
was
in the
dark
doggy
out.
door. This is in August at 7. It isn't dark at 7 in August. But
Observing
my neighbor
dark.
did see her throw this dog over my fence. And so when I get home, after telling Laura that I could not watch her, the dog is there.
But then we come to the 20th, when she did, in fact, come back for the dog.
Right.
So
and
why,
I have
my
the-
question to you, Miss Van Tyne, is why did you not give her back her dog on the 20th?
Well, because she called the Charleston... She called the Charleston Police Department, and I do have the police report from that here. And he does state that she was irate and also threatened to drive her van through my house.
That's not what I said.
And, yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you, why
And,
didn't
I mean,
you
the
give...
reason that, because I was not there when she came for the dog, I
With
told
my
her I'm not
husband.
going to be home.
Miss Parker, if you interrupt again, you're going home empty-handed. Do you understand?
Anyway,
You gotta give me a good answer. She wants her dog back. You know she wants her dog back. Why didn't you make arrangements to get her dog back through the police department the next day?
Because of the harassment that was going on with her, and then I was advised by the police officer not to have contact with this woman since she had...
So you give the dog to the police officer, and the police officer brings the dog to her house. End of conflict.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laura Wright Parker says former neighbor Deborah Van Tyne refuses to return her Pomeranian named Tiffany. Deborah says Laura abandoned the animal in her backyard.
Miss Van Tyne, you had no right to keep her dog after the 20th. So there goes your counterclaim. You want her to pay so much a day for the 81 days that you've boarded this dog. That's ridiculous because she wanted her dog back and you should have given her dog back. Now, you say that You bought the dog from her husband for $1?
He purchased the animal. He's the one who purchased the animal in the beginning in 94.
If her husband purchased this dog for her in 1994, this was her dog, and he has no right to sell it for $1 or $10 or $20. So pick a time that's convenient for you to bring the dog to the police station so that the dog can be transported to the plaintiff's home.
I guess this weekend.
Perfect. As far as your counterclaim is concerned, reimbursement for dog care, forget that. Related expenses, forget that. Pain and suffering.
Yeah, her, threatening my life. Her brother's calling me from New York, threatening to whack me.
Why don't you just give her a dog back?
This was not over the dog. This was over the children.
Listen, you never get in the middle of two married people. That's not a very smart
Well,
thing
the
to
children
do.
being abused and no one else being there. He asked me to take the children into a safe place, and I did.
But then you kept both he and the children in your home for a month. It's not a very good idea. You should have given her dog back on the 20th. That was a very foolish thing to do. Judgment for the plaintiff. The dog will be returned. I will prepare an order.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have one question.
Yes.
I also put down that I'd like some kind of compensation for emotional distress and pain and suffering.
That you don't get.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
All I care about is I come out here to get my dog, and that's what I got.
She was beating the children and the animals.
I don't make best friends.
I wouldn't hesitate to step in and help again. Not in the least.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gilmore versus Jones. Step forward, please.
44-year-old air traffic controller Kevin Gilmore is suing Melinda and James Jones for a bicycle accident caused by their dog. The Joneses say Kevin is also at fault.
Mr. Gilmore, your complaint is that the defendant's dog caused your bicycle to crash with you on it.
That's correct.
And you want to be compensated for your medical bills, your pain and suffering, and basically for the injuries that you sustained.
That's correct.
When did this happen?
On June 14th.
Where were you?
I was riding my bicycle in front of the defendant's home. It's a rural two-lane highway, and as I approached the defendant's house, their dog came up out of the ditch and ran in front of me. I had no chance.
Where was there a ditch?
I have photos of that here.
Can I see it, please?
The arrows point the direction I was coming from and going. And a dog could easily have been in there and not be seen.
So you assume that the dog came out of this area
That's
here?
correct. Right
which is
in
where
there.
the ditch was?
That's
Okay.
correct. So as I approached that area where the X is, the dog ran out in front of me. I had no chance to avoid it. I had traffic on my left, and I grabbed onto the handlebars as tight as I could, knew I was going to hit the dog. I hit the dog, flew through the air, landed on my right side, and hit my head pretty hard, cracked my helmet, was unconscious for, I think, several minutes. I'm not sure. When I came to, there were several people standing around me. An ambulance had been summoned, and the police were on the way. I was taken to the ER of the local hospital, and I was treated for my wounds, given some medication for pain.
What kind of dog was this? Do you know?
It looks like a black lab mix, maybe a 60 or 70 pound dog, 18 months old, full of energy. No problem trying to keep up with the biker, I guess, but damage to my bike was pretty significant. It's an expensive bike. I think I paid over $5,000 for it. I have a receipt for that initially.
Did you have any opportunity to speak to the defendants?
Yes, I did.
When?
Actually, that night, my wife spoke with Mrs. Jones.
On the telephone or in person?
On the telephone.
Wife? Yeah. Step up. Is it Miss Gilmore?
Mrs. Gilmore, yes. I spoke to Mrs. Jones just to get the information about their address, and I just wanted some basic information. I asked how the dog was, and I told her that my husband had been hurt pretty badly, and that we were probably going to be compiling the costs of out-of-pocket expenses. So
what did she say?
She didn't say much of anything. She was pretty quiet at the other end.
How did she say the dog was?
She said the paw was hurt on the dog, but the next day my husband had talked to him, and I think it was hurt pretty badly.
Do you have any photographs of your injuries?
Yes, I do, ma'am. And it's my contention, ma'am, that the owners knew that this dog was a hazard to bicyclists. On August 20th, after I'd compiled all of my expenses, I had been playing telephone tag with the Jones, trying to get a hold of them so I could drop off my receipts. And on this day I called and I got a hold of one of their children. They said, no, it's okay, you can bring the receipts by. So I did. I brought the receipts by and I asked if I could see the dog. I wanted to see how it was doing. And I was petting the dog, and the son offered information to me that I thought was very interesting. He said that The dog has been maced. It's been hit at with bicycle pumps. To quote him, he said there's one older biker who says he's going to kill that dog if it puts one more paw on the pavement.
May I see the police report?
Sure.
Yeah.
He states that the dog was tied up. When it saw me, it worked its way loose from the collar, and it ran down the driveway and chased me down. Well, their daughter stated to me that when they saw me coming down the road, they were all saying, "Where's Molly? Where's Molly?" They couldn't find Molly until it was too late. And the boy said, "You hit Molly and you look like you were Superman flying through the air."
Mr. Jones, tell me where you were on the date of this incident.
I was standing in the driveway, and the dog was on a leash at that particular time. And she apparently had seen him coming. She pulled her head out from the collar, and she had cut him off. Mr. Gilmore was riding fairly close to the edge of the ditch because she didn't even clear the grass hardly when he hit her. And when I got there, he was not unconscious. The first thing he said to me was, "What happened?" And I had stated to him at that point that he had hit my dog. I guess my deal is that Mr. Gilmore created this incident. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and my dog happened to pull her head out and run him down.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore was riding his bike 35 to 40 miles away from his own residence on a major highway. There's 2,500 miles of bike trails in the state of Minnesota. I know that it's not against the law to ride your bike on a highway, but they're dangerous.
They're not dangerous unless there's a dog off the leash.
She wasn't off the leash, ma'am.
Yes, she was. She was off the leash. Now, if I believe the baloney story that she was on the leash and she managed to wiggle her neck out of the collar, which I don't believe for a second, but let's say I woke up this morning in a good mood and I believe that story, you're still responsible. Because the collar should have been tight enough so that the dog couldn't whittle out of the collar, especially since you knew that the dog had previously enjoyed chasing cyclists. Okay. Mr. Gilmore, am I correct that what you really wanted from them was your expenses, the
That's all
out-of-pocket
I asked
expenses?
for initially. I asked for them to pay my out-of-pocket expenses. And then they got difficult about that. They said
It started out at $500, went to $1,500, and then you jacked it up $1,500 more dollars after the fact.
The day that this had happened, as Mrs. Gilmore had stated, yes, I did talk to her that evening. And when she asked how my dog was, I told her that her shoulder had been ripped open, but she's going to be fine. She had told me $500 will take care of everything. Mr. Gilmore had called me the following day and said, my wife had no right stating to you that $500 would take care of it. I need to get my bills together to come up with a total. And
Okay,
I said
that's
that
fair.
that's fine. He did that.
He did that. So what were the bills that he presented you with?
He presented a bill of $1,192. So
Okay.
now it has gone from $500.
No, it didn't go from 500. No,
to the
Miss
$1,200.
Jones, it didn't go from 500. If his wife said that to you, $500 should cover it. And then he called you immediately and he said to you, my wife should not have said that to you because I don't have all my bills together yet.
Exactly.
So he got the bills together and he brought them over to you. So why didn't you pay him?
We felt that
No, I didn't ask you. I'm asking her.
Because I was not able to get back to him.
When did you finally get back to him?
He had called.
When did you get back to
I
him?
did not, ma'am.
Well, then that's the answer. You never bothered to call him back. Okay.
Your Honor. How can we go from almost $1,200 to over $3,000?
Because he's also suing you for pain and suffering. Those were his out-of-pocket expenses. He wasn't asking you for $3,000 then. It was only when you blew him off and didn't call him that he sued you. And he said, I'm going to get some pain and suffering out of this, too.
But when I said to Kevin that I was surprised that he wasn't willing to accept any of the responsibility of this incident, that's when it got jacked up.
It is not his responsibility. It is
It
your
was an
responsibility.
accident that was just something that, a freak thing that had happened.
No. Listen to me, sir. Accidents happen. That's why we have insurance. If you drive a car, which I'm sure you do if you live in a rural area, you have insurance on your car because very few people, unless they are demented, go out into the street with a vehicle intending to cause injury or damage. That's why we call them accidents. This was, in fact, an accident, but it was an accident caused by your dog because your dog was off the leash.
So if I had been in my vehicle backing out of my driveway and he had hit me, he is not any at all responsible.
You don't seem to get the drill here in a court. In a court, I ask the questions, and you answer the questions.
I understand
So
that.
far, you've answered the questions, and you've gotten most of them wrong. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. 525 on the calendar in the matter of Ruiz versus Conley. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Ruiz,
Yes.
it's over. You understand that?
Yes.
Good. You have a son together with the defendant?
That's correct.
Do you visit with your son?
She hasn't let me see him since she got the temporary restraining order.
Did you file a petition for visitation with your child?
Not yet. I'm in the process of doing
That's what you have to do, okay? You can't come and fetch that you don't have visitation unless you filed a petition for visitation. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
All right, so let's deal with this case, and I'm going to make 1, 2, 3 of it because I've read it. 2 things. You were living together, you have a child together, you bought a dog together. And according to you, the dog was $600?
No, it was $500.
$500. And each of you was supposed to pay half. You put in $150. So you didn't finish paying for your half. Then you separated. So you want the money you put into the dog.
We had an agreement when we bought the dog.
I read the agreement, that in case you separated, you would get the dog.
Yeah, and she would lose her half.
Well, that may be, Mr. Ruiz. Let me explain something to you. You also agreed to pay for half the dog, which you didn't do. Right?
Yeah.
So there's no agreement. I mean, I read you said if you separate, you're going to get the dog. Well, but your first thing you were supposed to do was pay for half, which you didn't. Got it?
Yeah.
All right. So where's the dog now?
She took the dog.
Perfect. And how old is your son?
He is 15 months.
Does he play with the dog?
Yeah, he played with all the dogs we had.
Did he play with the dog?
Yes.
Get over it. Do you understand, Mr. Ruiz?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it, though.
Listen, there may be a lot more to it. For that, you'll see a therapist. This is a court.
Yeah. She needs to see one.
This is a court, Mr. Ruiz.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing you're suing her for is you say that she filed allegations that were false and got a restraining order against you.
Yeah.
But I read very carefully your complaint, and it seems as if that case was heard before a judge who granted her a final order of protection, right?
Yeah.
So that matter has been determined already.
They didn't allow for me to speak. She
Mr.
put down I killed
Ruiz.
10 people.
Mr. Ruiz, a court is a court is a court. There are different standards of proof in every court, but in a civil proceeding, the quantum of proof in a civil proceeding is either this much evidence or this much evidence that something happened. In a criminal proceeding, it's this much evidence. You already had a hearing in a civil court with regard to your protective order, and a judge already made a determination by the same quality of evidence that I have to rule on that you were guilty of whatever acts she alleged and granted her a restraining order. So you cannot sue her for filing false charges against you, because that would mean that you get to try the case twice. We don't give people twice in this country in a civil case. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Trying to explain the whole thing to you.
I got it.
Why I'm dismissing your case, because you have no case. Now, the only thing that you have is you have, to me, a legitimate desire to see your child, and you should do that, and you should do that as expeditiously as possible. And that I'm going to discuss with Ms. Connolly, who has a counterclaim.
Yes, I do.
She has a counterclaim that you have certain property that belong to her. Return the value of a crib, Christmas decorations, and family photos. Plus, she says you hung the dog out the window and threatened
That is not
to, and
true.
that's dog abuse. Did
That's
you
not
raise that issue before the other judge?
No, I didn't. No, I did tell him that. I did mention that in court.
Well, fine, good, perfect. Then I don't want to hear about it. You've already discussed that with another judge. I don't hear cases twice. That's it. That part of it is over. Do you get it?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Now, this crib that you want back, who bought it?
He purchased it, and I purchased the matching changing table. I was able to take the changing table out of there, but he refused to give me the crib because
He doesn't have to.
Okay.
He purchased it. And hopefully he'll have visitation. He'll be able to use it.
Okay.
So he doesn't have to give you back the crib.
Okay.
Christmas decorations, who purchased them?
I did, Your Honor.
Good. When?
I purchased them over the last few years. I recently, because we've had my son, I went out and bought all new plastic bulbs because we had a majority of glass bulbs. And also my son's first Christmas stocking, his first Christmas bulb from when he was first born. He was born in October.
And who bought that?
A friend actually gave it to me for a Christmas present for my son. It's his first
Gave
one
it to whom?
Gave it to me and bought it for my son as his first bulb.
You know anything about what she's talking about?
When she was supposed to come get her property, when you get a restraining order, you have a certain amount of time to get your property. She kept stringing me along. She had the 10-day restraining order. She wanted to see me. She kept groveling back.
Just a second. Do you have this property in your house?
I don't take the stuff off the tree. She took the stuff off the tree. When she
Do you
came
know
to
where
get
it
her
is?
stuff, it should be downstairs. I called the police to get her things
Mr.
out.
Ruiz,
I
this
told
is
her
all
to
I
take
want
them.
you-
She didn't
This
take
is all
them.
I want you to do, sir. The crib you keep, you
Yeah.
purchased it. I want you to go downstairs and see if you find these Christmas decorations that she wants. Put them in a box, and I want you to be smart. Listen to me. I'm older than you are.
Mm-hmm.
I've had more experience with this stuff. Take all the Christmas decorations, put them in a nice box. Family photos, those belong to the two of you, not just you.
Absolutely.
So if you can divide them so that she gets some pictures of the baby when he was little and you get some pictures of the baby when he was little, if you can do that, fine. Any pictures of her family, give her. You're going to have to be together in some way for the next this growing up. Don't do anything with regard to this property that is going to make her any more bitter than she is, or you any more bitter than you are. So let's start with this little bundle of property. So I'm going to prepare an order that you will examine your basement and return to her, if it's there, the Christmas decorations and her family photos. Her family photos. What?
I'm sorry. He actually has a majority of the photos on his computer already, like, burnt into the computer, and that's from when my son was first born, just fresh coming out of me on the table, my baby shower, that he has all those downloaded in his computer, as well as photos in his cameras.
Okay, do this, Mr. Ruiz. Is that true?
She's printed out over half of them already. I don't know what she's talking about.
Just a second. Do this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you a start at rebuilding some sort of civility between the two of you so that when you get your visitation with your son, which you should have,
Oh, I will get him.
you'll be able to go over and pick him up, make an exchange that's pleasant, maybe even go to a joint birthday party that you make for him. Do you understand what I mean? That's a nice thing to do. So if it means, I want you to watch how clever I am, burning a CD for her.
Ooh.
Thank you, that's what I want.
Am I hypotech or what?
Yes, you are.
Getting the lingo. I have absolutely no idea what it means.
I love it, though.
Burn a CD for her of all those pictures and put it in the box with the Christmas decorations. Be smart. It's an olive branch.
Yeah, I never said I wouldn't do that.
Fine, great.
I
That's
never
what's
said I
going to
would-
happen.
when the police was
Easy
there, I
enough.
said,
Easy
you know,
enough.
it takes time.
Easy enough. 5 days to do it. Now, Miss Connolly, you picked him.
Yes, I did.
You picked him, and you made a baby with him.
Yes, I did.
And your baby has a right to know his father.
Absolutely. I am not disputing that, Your Honor.
When would you like him to see him?
I told him I will not dispute visitation, period. But the problem is, Your Honor, is the reason I will not dispute visitation as far as joint and full custody, because he wanted to take my son to Florida. And this happened in July when I left him originally also, because he kept threatening me because I am a young parent.
Okay. So you won't
Tell him what
dispute
led up to
visitation.
everything.
Shh. You won't dispute visitation, but there's a but.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't want to be a stupid single parent, do you?
No, I do not.
Perfect.
She is.
What did you say?
She is.
And you're a genius.
I'm not a genius.
And later today,
His reason wasn't really legitimate.
What difference does it make what his reason was?
It makes a huge difference because it was only 3 weeks left.
You mean you would have preferred that he married you and then left you?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Roberto Ruiz says the mother of his child, Eleanor Conley, owes for half the cost of a dachshund and for lying to obtain a restraining order. Eleanor is countersuing for the return of her belongings.
What's the but?
The but is I just want to make sure that, A, my son is safe. He mentioned to me that when my son gets older, he's going to tell him what his mother's all about.
And just a second. He wishes he would eat those words and they never came out of his mouth because he's not going to be stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stupid means you made a child with her and you're not supposed to say anything bad about her to your son. That only makes him feel bad. And she's not supposed to say anything bad about you.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't make him feel good. The child feel good.
Absolutely.
That only makes you feel good. Got to start with the olive branch.
It's kind of hard to do when she put down, I killed 10 people to get a restraining order.
That's what he stated to me.
Mr. Ruiz.
That's a little far-fetched.
Mr. Ruiz, you're not getting it, sir. When was the last time you saw your son?
When she had the 10-day restraining
When?
order. About 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
When she knew that I wasn't going to take her back.
Absolutely
3 weeks,
not.
I'm sorry. Stop.
I'm sorry.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, I would have been at the courthouse 2 weeks ago seeking visitation.
I couldn't do that. We all had a family vacation plan. Her, my son, that's named after my father, my foster father. We were all going to Florida. That was already planned. This happened a few days before that happened. Had to change all the flight plans.
So?
So I couldn't go down there. I had to work.
Okay. All right. Well, see if you can work it out.
Excuse me, Your Honor?
What?
I got the restraining order on February 5th. He should have went that day to probate court and requested
Miss
visitation.
Connolly, do I look like... Listen.
I'm sorry.
She's been coming over my house. I was seeing my
No,
son.
I have not.
Miss Connolly?
Yes.
I believe you have.
I did.
Just
'cause he-
listen to me. I believe
Yes,
you
you
have.
did.
That's what happens.
Two
He doesn't
occasions.
say...
I'm sorry.
He doesn't say that unless that's true. And it's not an unusual occurrence. You can't give him a yin and a yang. You know, you understand, which is what you were doing.
Yes, you
He
are.
has to see his child. He was involved with his child. He loves his child just like you love his child. So I suggest very strongly that you make arrangements for him to see him. He's hurting because he's not seeing him. And that's what you have to do. And the longer you wait, the angrier it's going to be. And that is stupid. And you don't want to be a stupid single parent, do you?
No, I do not.
Perfect.
She is.
Okay. What did you say?
She is.
And you're a genius.
I'm not a genius.
And you're a genius.
I'm not a
The
genius.
case is dismissed. Make sure you get the property back to her. I'll prepare an order. You don't get it, Mr. Ruiz.
Oh, I get it.
No, you don't get me.
I got you.
You don't get it. That's all. Out.
Parties are excused. Ma'am, wait there.
I found out she was being unfaithful,
He had threatened me about a good number of 6 times.
and I kicked her to the curb like most people would.
He's a very violent person. Anybody that knows him knows that.
I'm gonna fight for full custody because he's in an environment that's not safe.
I just hope that he and I can be civil for the case of my son. I love him to death.
The child's the one that's suffering. She used him as a leverage toy.
And one thing that Roberto's giving me is my baby, and it's the best gift in life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Wright versus Cox. Step forward.
Philip Wright is suing his ex-fiancée, Lillian Cox, for the value of an engagement ring. Lillian is countersuing for half the cost of a wedding that never happened.
Bird, you want to give me those lovely rings that are on the defendant's table over there?
Certainly.
Mr. Wright, you and the defendant were in love once, became engaged. Romance is over. Wedding was called off. You want your rings back.
No, ma'am.
You don't want these back.
I'd prefer the cash settlement.
Oh, that's too bad.
Okay.
So I assume you want these back.
Yes, in that case.
And Miss Cox says that you owe her a fortune because you canceled the wedding. She had spent an awful lot of money, so she wants you to share the expenses that she was forced to pay as a result of you canceling the wedding. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This was your engagement ring?
Yes, ma'am.
And 2 bands that went around it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he pay for it?
Yes.
An engagement ring is given in contemplation of marriage, which means it's a conditional gift. And the condition of that gift is that you get married. If the wedding is called off, irrespective of who calls it off, if he paid for them, he gets the rings back.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So much for you. When was the wedding scheduled?
For May 19th.
2007.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the arrangement that the two of you made with regard to how the wedding was going to be paid for?
We were taking care of much as we could ourselves.
Explain that to me.
The majority of the deposits that were done, I paid for it out of cash.
You paid for?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your agreement?
The agreement was...
Look at me.
She wanted to have, the type of wedding that she wanted. I agreed to it. So I got 2 credit cards, one with her name, one with my name. I gave her a credit card to basically be in charge of making all the arrangements, and, she kept all the receipts for everything.
So, how much money, Mr. Wright, did you spend, you personally, on the wedding prior to the engagement being called off?
Approximately $8,000 was charged onto the credit card.
What?
It's about $8,000 because he paid for the rings. The only thing that his credit card paid for was the finish of the reception.
Just a second. Okay. I'm not talking about the rings, sir. The rings you have back. Deduct the rings.
With the rings deducted, it still comes out to about that. Everything was charged onto the cards.
Well, how could it be? You mean you paid nothing for the rings?
No, I'm sorry. I paid for the diamond on a separate credit card, but that still comes out to $5,000.
The diamond was bought for a previous engagement. That didn't have anything to do, so
No,
it's
no,
not my
no. What I'm
expenses.
trying to figure out is, what is the total exposure that you both have for these expenses? I'm going to cut them in half because that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
You want me to charge him for everything because he canceled the wedding, but that's not the way it works. Now, how much money did he pay for the wedding expenses on his card?
$2,000.
Is that right?
No, that's incorrect.
Show me.
I don't have the statement. She kept all the receipts, Your Honor.
But you have the statements.
I don't have a written statement.
Statements from the credit card company.
I tried to get the statement for things that were bought back then. They sent me something. It wasn't what I requested. The only thing that I have now to show you the balance is I can show it to you on my phone. You know, that's the only thing that I can do right now.
Are you kidding me or what? How much did you pay?
Well, I'm just requesting the deposits that I made on things with cash, the dress that was bought.
You have a wedding dress?
Yes, ma'am.
You have it?
Yes, ma'am.
Just like he has the rings?
Yes, ma'am.
The wedding dress is yours. You have it. Forget the wedding dress. What else? Sell it.
I have the dresses that I bought for his daughters. He has 3, the one for my daughter, my cousin, my sister. I also have the knives, the flutes.
Do you have it?
Yes, ma'am. But it was for both of us.
I understand it's for both of you. You don't want to split it up and give him half and you half, do you?
But I would like for him to pay.
He's not.
Okay.
You see the rings that he has?
Yes, ma'am.
He's never going to be able to get what he paid for the rings, which is why he wanted the cash. Never going to be able to get the cash equivalent, but that's what happens.
Okay.
You may not get the cash equivalent for your wedding dress or the flutes or the knives, unless you want to keep them, but you could sell them.
Okay.
Everybody has a little bit of a loss. Do you understand, Miss Cox?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just my own curiosity. How much before this wedding on May 19th was the wedding canceled?
3 weeks before.
By whom?
Mr. Ray.
What happened?
There was a huge blow up, you know, on Miss Cox's part, and she said some things that let me know that it wouldn't work, you know. And after going through premarital counseling, I figure it's better to call off a marriage than get married and get a divorce right away.
Okay, go ahead.
So also I'm asking for $2,000 emotional distress because even though he called it off, he did come back to try to make it work.
What kind of emotional distress? I mean, where do you people come up with these ideas? Of course you have distressed emotionally when a wedding is called off.
Okay. We never argue in regards to things that usually go in a relationship. We argue because he wanted me to stand up to his children's mother. He never said anything to her in regards to the things that she were doing to separate us. He always wanted me to say something. But that's the reason why it was called off, and I don't, okay.
You were distressed emotionally?
Yes, ma'am.
Move on. Got it? That's what you do. Weddings get called off all the time. Sometimes not 3 weeks before. But it's better that it was called off 3 weeks before than 3 weeks after.
But his
Gets a lot more complicated.
His reason wasn't really legitimate, Judge Judy.
I don't care what his reason was.
Okay.
What difference does it make what his reason was?
It makes a huge difference because it was only 3 weeks left.
You mean you would have preferred that he married you and then left you?
He wouldn't have left because he came back. He came back. If he was going to leave, he would have never came back.
The mother of his children wasn't going away. He has 3 children with her.
Absolutely.
She was not going away.
Okay.
Forever.
But the things that he did when he came back,
Find somebody
he
without
should've did it
baggage. Do you have baggage?
I have a daughter.
Then you got baggage.
But it wasn't
He's
a
got
problem.
3 times baggage. If you want somebody without baggage, pick somebody who's lived in a monastery. You got it? Meanwhile, say, it's over. You're a beautiful young lady.
Thank you.
You look like a smart young lady.
I am, thank you.
Right? He's got divided loyalties. Find somebody that's a little more simplistic.
Okay.
All right?
Đây là cái sản phẩm tẩy tế bào chết ốc dân quế hồi Nga và được chiết xuất từ quế hồi và cà phê. Thì tất cả chị em của chúng ta muốn có một cái làn da tươi sáng mịn màng thì không nên bỏ qua cái dòng tẩy tế bào chết được chiết xuất từ quế hồi và cà phê này. Thì nếu như mà trong các cái danh sách tẩy tế bào chết cho da hoặc cho body, nếu như mà chúng ta bỏ qua cái tẩy tế bào chết được chiết xuất từ quế hồi và cà phê thì là một cái sai sót rất là lớn. Thì được rất là nhiều chị em yêu thích với các cái thành phần chiết xuất hoàn toàn từ tự nhiên như là quế hồi và cà phê. Thì cái thành phần quế hồi và cà phê thì nó có cái khả năng đó là sẽ loại bỏ các cái tế bào chết da cỗi sần sùi ở trên da của chúng ta, và nó sẽ kích thích sản sinh cái lượng collagen và tái tạo các cái tế bào mới cho da của chúng ta. Và đặc biệt nó sẽ cải thiện cái làn da xỉn màu và giúp da của chúng ta được sáng mịn và đều màu hơn. Và nó sẽ hỗ trợ là điều trị mụn rất là tốt, và nó sẽ duy trì cái độ ẩm cần thiết cho da của chúng ta để da của chúng ta sẽ trở nên được trẻ trung và tươi tắn hơn. Với cái hương thơm rất là dịu nhẹ, mang lại cho chúng ta một cái cảm giác rất là thư giãn mỗi khi mà chúng ta sử dụng cái tẩy tế bào chết được chiết xuất từ quế hồi và cà phê. Và cái sản phẩm tẩy tế bào chết thì có cái thành phần là polyethylene. Đó, cái cách sử dụng thì rất là đơn giản. Đầu tiên thì chúng ta sẽ làm ướt da, sau đó chúng ta sẽ lấy một cái lượng tẩy tế bào chết vừa đủ, sau đó là chúng ta sẽ thoa đều và chúng ta sẽ massage nhẹ nhàng trong vòng là 1 cho đến 2 phút. Sau đó là chúng ta sẽ rửa lại và tắm lại bằng nước sạch, và chúng ta có thể sử dụng từ 1 đến 3 lần trong một tuần, hoặc là tùy theo cái làn da mà chúng ta có thể sử dụng cái số lần nhiều hơn. Đó.